Hello and welcome back to Zenin Fanfics. Today we're starting an exciting new series. What if Deku had ability to develop new quirks? If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe for more content. The story we are featuring is written by the Weird 10209 on Wattpad. You can find all the relevant links in the description, so be sure to check out the author's profile and say hello. Now, let's dive into the story. Aizawa POV. I sat on the edge of a building scanning the area. There was only a few muggings and low-tier villains causing trouble. I thought about my life as sat there. Back then I had really nice girlfriend. I smiled whenever I thought back to her. We were friends in middle school and continued into something more when we entered high school. I felt the need to protect people like her cause they were so rare in this shitty world. My only regret was letting her go. Reminiscing about those old days. She had a kid now and a husband. I wished I could have been. As I went on with my shift, I smelt smoke. I turned and saw an apartment building burning. Got to it as fast as I could and burst into the building to see if there was any survivors. Bodies laid completely burnt on the floor, barely recognizable. There was crying coming from behind the sofa and rushed over quickly. A small boy with black hair and green highlights sat, crying, clutching onto a metal box. He looked up to me and moved back startled. "He hurt me," he cried. "Don't worry, kid, I'm a hero." The boy seemed to have calmed down a bit and scooped him and jumped out the burning building. Rescue heroes had arrived at the scene quickly and helped put out the fire. The boy clung to me as though his life depended on it. Naosama was there at the scene and asked what had happened. I told him what I had come across. The two burnt bodies were put in body bags as the boy tried to hide his face in my shoulder. He sobbed into it as I patted his back. "It's a cruel fate to watch your parents die." The couple was Hisashi and Izuku Midoriya, Naosama said, and I instantly felt my heart drop. "What did you say?" I asked, not wanting this to be true. Naosama looked at me with confused look and he told me once again who had died in the fire. It was Izuku, my once best friend and lover. The detective looked at me with confused eyes as I clutched and held the small boy in my arms. I took in shaky breaths, not wanting to believe this reality. "Erase your head, are you all right?" Naosama asked, looking worried. I tried to compose myself, but the shock was too. "She was a friend," I said, referring to the now burnt body of the woman I loved. Felt as though I was going to have a panic attack when suddenly a whimper came from the boy. I held him close, not wanting to let go. He was now the only physical proof that Izuku had been here. That Izuku had been alive. I had let her go and look at what had happened. "You had a long night? And why don't you take the boy home with you?" he said, noticing that the boy wouldn't be letting go of me as I wouldn't be letting go of him. Time skip. I sat the boy down in my bedroom and took the couch. I needed to compose myself. Having one person see me break was enough. Why did Izuku have to go like that? The last I saw, she was happy with her husband. Questioned the reality I was in. The boy was Izuku Midoriya, her only son. He had no other relatives. Izuku was an orphan and little was known about her husband. I managed to compose myself and took to see the boy. Unruly black hair with green highlights and freckles on his face. It reminded me greatly of Izuku. What would happen to the kid, I wondered. Both parents are gone and no relatives. He'd be put in an orphanage. For some reason, losing the last remnant of Izuku didn't sit well in my stomach. I decided to think about it more later and give myself time for myself and the boy to grieve, knowing that God had taken back his angel. I woke up feeling something fuzzy in my face. I looked down and saw green highlights. The kid probably got scared and came down. I let the kid sleep and went to the kitchen. I lived alone with my cat, so I didn't too much. It was a simple apartment with an extra bedroom that Mike would use whenever he was too tired to get home on his own. I wouldn't feel like driving him, so I'd just shove him in that. A knock came from the front door. Think of the devil and his here, I thought. Opened the door to Hisashi and he looked uncharacteristically quiet. I couldn't blame him. Izuku was his friend too. "Yo," he said and walked in. "You heard then?" I asked him and he just sighed as he took a seat next to the kid. Better than the kid, I guess. He rules the kid's head as he groggy got up and looked at us. Hiya kiddo, present, Mike said to Izuku. He looked as though he was trying to process what was happening, then started to let tears out and start talking. I tried to save Mommy and Daddy, but I don't have a quirk, and a man just came and took Daddy's quirk and killed them. He sobbed as me and Mike listened intently at what he was saying. Kaken was right, I am useless, he cried. All of a sudden Nemuri burst into the room. Thank God, in normal clothes, and went to the boy and picked him and held him gently like a mother would. Izuku sobbed into her shoulders and fell asleep once more. The poor kid, she said, looking worried. He just said someone took away his father's quirk and used it against them, Mike said, as though he was trying to process what the kid had just said. I'm going to the police then, I said, and made my way to the door. Wait, what are you going to do about the kid? Mike asked before I was out the door. He's the last thing left of Inko, like hell he's staying in an orphanage, I told them, and left the apartment. No one. POV preset. Mike and Midnight watched their friend go with a smile on their face. He still loved Inko even after the breakup, even after she had a kid with a new husband, and still after she was gone. Midnight thought for a second. A kid? Inko wasn't the type to cheat while dating someone, but she was expecting before she met her new husband. Figured it out when Inko had called in sick a few weeks after the breakup. That was when she met the man with her at the hospital. She smiled at the fact, now finally realizing the truth. Looked at the sleeping boy in her arms. Small for his age and very light. There was only Inko written all over him. The black was probably the true father's and the green highlights Inko. Izuku had lost mostly everything in that fire, but now he was adjusting to his new life. He still went to his old kindergarten where his childhood friend, now bully, was. He was glad Kaken was still. He needed something to help him return to normality. A year had passed and his name was changed to Izuku Aizawa. He still didn't know why the underground hero wanted to adopt, but he was really happy about it. Uncle Mike and Auntie Midnight were really fun too, helping him to try and forget that night, but he would still wake up with nightmares. Now 9, even though Izuku had no quirk, or so he thought, he still wanted to be a hero. He would sometimes play with Aizawa's capture gear when he thought no was watching. But little did he know that 3 pro heroes couldn't resist his cuteness. Whenever kindergarten was over, he would either be picked up by Midnight or present Mike while in casual clothes. His classmates would wonder if they were his new parents. Midnight was caught Kaken trying to bully Izuku and used his quirk on him, putting him to sleep and giving him to his mother. His auntie Mistuki somehow knew Midnight and talked while the kids played. She said they went to the same middle school, which was believable. Now at the age of 12 he still didn't have a quirk, but he was trained by Aizawa so he would be able to defend himself. He said he practically quirkless like him if he didn't have someone to look at, though the training was hell. One day while heading home, Izuku noticed Kaken and his group of lackeys bullying a kid with a low-tier quirk. His body moved on his own as usual and went to save the kid. Izuku vit, oi Deku, out of the way. Kaken growled, no Kaken, I'll never forgive you if you do this, I shouted. I braved myself for what would come. I watched as Kaken came at me with his hand, sparks igniting in his face, contorted with rage. I looked at him straight in the eye to show I wasn't going to be afraid, and when nothing came out from Kaken, everyone looked at him with confusion. His quirk wasn't working. His lackeys turned to me and suddenly stepped back. Oi, what's up with your hair? One with wings asked. I noticed my hair was raised and they said my eyes were red. The moment I blinked, my hair fell back in place, and since Kaken was looking at his hand up close, an explosion blasted him the face. When I was far from harm, I couldn't help but smile. Quirk. What made me more happier was that it was just like Dad's. Wait, my mom had weak telekinesis and other dad had fire breath. I thought for a while why I had my adoptive dad's quirk. It boggled my mind too much. I decided to call the man. He didn't pick up. Must be sleeping, I thought. I tried calling Uncle Hisashi. He too didn't pick up. Must be yelling at someone, I thought, and decided to call Auntie Namuri. I was glad she picked up. Izuku, what's up? She asked happily. I got my quirk. I told her. I could hear squealing on the other end. What is it, baby? Tell me, she squealed. Basically, I can stop another person's quirk like Dad. When I said those words, I heard extreme coughing coming from the other end. I got worried. Auntie, why you okay? I asked, really worried. It's nothing, okay. Izuku, I'll need to have a word with your dad, she said breathlessly and hung up. I stood there, sweat dropping about what the hell just happened. Midnight POV when little Izuku told me about his quirk just suddenly popping up. Had to admit I was happy for him. He had gone through quite depressed stage. At least he could be happier now. But when he told his quirk was just like Shota, honestly I almost fell off my chair. While choking on my erasure, I shouted, bursting into the sleeping man's house. It was a corner in his sleeping bag. For some reason I needed to record his reaction, so I hid a tiny camera in my blouse. It's you, the grump said, not even trying to get out his sleeping bag. Izuku caught his habit and now carries us sleeping around with him. Then again, father like son, I thought. We need to talk, I told him. I watched him begrudgingly get out from his caterpillar state and sit on the couch like a hobo. Truly father like son. Izuku too had been having trouble sleeping now. What is it? He asked, clearly annoyed. Inko was peeing before she got married. I let out bluntly. What's that got to do with me? He asked, sounding a bit annoyed. Everything. Izuku just called and said he's got an erasure-based quirk. I watched the seemingly heartless and cold man freeze. The look of puzzlement on his face as he was putting two and two together. Holy Christ! I shouted as the man burst out in tears while his face still looked puzzled. Dad? Izuku shouted, coming from the door. His face confused and concerned. But more tears ran down his eyes when he saw Izuku. Izuku went to him and tried to comfort him, waving his hands like crazy, both worried and confused. I watched him think, then he said, I got my quirk. Watch this, he said, and we watched him activate it. His hair rose like Shuta's, his eyes glowed like him. I'm not so sure what happened next, but all I could say is that Shoyuta passed out. Izuku went beyond worried and called the hospital. I had to calm him down and told him he was just happy. Aizawa POV, I adopted my own kid. Honestly, I was beyond happy. And he has my quirk. We went to the doctor to get it registered the next day. He had to do some tests and we figured that he could erase more than I could. Not only that, but paralyze mutant types. I can become a hero then, he said, giving us the brightest smile ever. I was happy though. I tried no show it on my face. I'm raising my kid with Inko. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Izuku was aiming for UA, and that was when I realized I haven't told I was teaching there. In order for Izuku to pass the exams, he'll need to build up his body. I couldn't help but grin. Sorry kid, but you're gonna go through a new whole lot of hell. Izuku POV, I could feel my dad's SHT eating grin. Goodbye world, I said, and prayed he wouldn't go so HRD on me. Then the naming of my quirk. I wasn't so good with name. If I choose a bad one, people would think of it as a villainous quirk. If I didn't choose a cool name, it would just funny. I felt a hand on my head and turned to see dead. I froze, looking in glowing red eyes. Man, I was muttering again. He could erase quirks. I could do the same. But I could also paralyze mutant type. Paralyze doesn't sound so nice. It hit me. Suppress, I stated, and Dad gave a grin. With my quirk now registered, my hell began. Dad didn't go easy on me like I hoped. He made me practice errant close combat skills. It was obvious, cause even with this king of quirks, we were still practically quirkless. Dad was SLV driver. But thanks to the training, I managed to build up my body. I was glad I wasn't too muscular. I was just quite lean. Auntie Namuri would complain that I wasn't eating much. Thanks to me finally having a quirk, most of my classmates would stop pushing me around. Dad had gotten me my own capture gear to train with. The bullies in school would go for the other quirkus kids. Now that I had a quirk, either that or the low-tier kids. Once again my body would move and I'd Use the capture gear against them. Like Dad had taught me, but I'd run away after knocking them out. All they would say was they saw a flash of green and they were out. The capture gear was around my neck like a scarf, so no one noticed except Kaken. He still bullies me, but I'd tail it out of there quickly. Not because I was afraid of him, no, because Dad would kill me if I got into fight. He had said something of waiting for the right time to show him what I got. I sweat dropped at the fact that he said it with that sitch-eating grin and a manic laugh. That was really scary. Maybe after I get into UA my dad would just let me train at school. I didn't know of what my dad had coming for me though. My hell would still continue. 2 years had gone by and it was the last year of middle school. The teacher came in and began to talk about career choices. You all want to be heroes, don't ya? He said, tossing the papers in the air. Everyone pumped their fist in the air as I also tired my did the same. Don't lump me with these extras, I'm going to the number 1 UA and become the number 1 hero. Kaken exclaimed. Aizawa signed up for you, didn't you? The teacher said. Everyone went quiet and I dreaded what came. Oidu, Kaken shouted, are you trying to stand on the same stage as me? Farts. Ignited, and in defense I activated my quirk. The moment he saw his quirk gone, he got even more. Thank God the teacher was there. Time skip school was finally over for the day, but then Kaken and 2 of his lackeys came along. I was busy writing in my hero analyze book when Kaken took it. Kaken, I said, trying to grab my book only to have him blow it up in my face. He held the book in his hand. Don't try and stand on the same stage as me, Deku, he threatened. You can't get in with that type of quirk of yours. Why don't you take a swan dive of the roof and hope to be born in the next life with a stronger quirk? He said as I watched him throw my book out the window. I had ignored everything he said and jumped out the window after my. It was out of habit, not suicide. Dad jumps of buildings all the time, and as training he made jump as well. I heard Kaken and his lackeys call after me. I forgot they were there. Kaken. POV, I watched the nerd jump out the window. I not did mean for him to actually do it. I was just messing with him like I usually did. I ran to the window only to see him land practically flawlessly on the ground. What the hell? What kind of training did this guy have? There was something up with him. Him and his weird guardians. Since kindergarten, after his mom died, these strange people were coming to pick up after school. They looked familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on where I had seen them. This guy had some intense training to land like that. Like hell was I going to be left behind by Deku. Izuku POV, Kaken saw me jump out the window. This bad? What is going to do this is bad, I paled. Without knowing, I had suddenly walked under a bridge and something smelled like sewage. Did it flow up or something? Flushing sound came from behind and I saw a slime villain. I activated my quirk unfairly and froze him. What the hell, I can't move. He struggled. You're the one doing this, ain't you? He shouted. As long as I kept my eyes open, he wouldn't be able to move. Do not fear, I had a familiar booming voice. I am here, All Might said, appearing before me. I tried not to blink, but I was so happy, even though I met him a couple of times, since he was like Dad's senpai or something. Young Aizawa, what a surprise, he said, trying to pat my head, but I quickly sidestepped and pointed at the villain. I see, sorry, but thank you, he said. I knew of All Might's secret normal form. My quirk had developed, and now anyone who made physical contact with me would have their quirk suppressed without me staring at them for about 5 minutes, sometimes more. Because of that principle, Nedzu made me take a recommendation, saying, Izuku, if you were to mingle with the others you would probably ruin their chances. It sounded kinda mean, but I understood. Though Dad didn't stop with the hell training. This had no side EX, so thank God. Somehow All Might managed to scoop the villain into a bottle and I could finally blink. You did good, kid, All Might said and rolled my hair. He instantly transformed back into his true form. I don't know why, but I always forget that you're a walking quirk suppressor, he said, and we both chuckled. Only mutant types are immune to this part of my quirk. It's an amazing quirk no matter how I see it, you will make an incredible hero. With that was all the encouragement I needed. Izuku POV dad had drilled me once again for the remaining months before the UA entrance exam. With my erasing quirk growing and changing, I was forced to take a recommendation. Just thinking if all the other kids bumped into me or something, they would lose their quirk for a couple of minutes. The stronger the quirk, the longer it's suppressed. An internal timer was in my head so I'd know when the time of suppression is up. I grinned to myself, remembering Kaken's shocked expression when my quirk developed to that extent. At that moment I realized I was turning into my dad. Everyone still had to do the written exams together, and Dad said he had a surprise for me. Hoped it wasn't too surprising. My heart wouldn't take it. I was good at studying, and Auntie Namuri taught me a lot of things, some things I believe was unnecessary, and Uncle Hisashi taught me how to speak different languages. I was pretty sure I could pass the written exam. From what Uncle Hisashi said, there would be some tests for the recommended students as well. I hoped I wouldn't get lost. I looked at the grand structure of UA before me. This was going to be my hero academia. Be it out of excitement or nervousness, I tripped on own leg. A smile still plastered on my face, as I pretty much expected my faith. A tap on my shoulder came. A timer in my head began to tick down, and my feet and face never met the ground. My sleepy eyes went wide, and I turned to see a girl. Brown hair with a permanent blush on her round face. Was speechless. "Sorry for using my quirk on you, it would be bad luck if you fell," she said with a smile. "Well, see ya," she said, and ran away. I talked to a girl, well, not literally but still. I'd forgotten all of Auntie Namuri's teachings though. Then I realized her quirk, anti-gravity or zero gravity. That a strong one, and the timer in my head. I thought for a moment to get a grasp on how. I almost doubled over when I figured the time was probably the longest. Training the body means training the quirk. Kaken was the same with his flashy quirk. Longest he'd been out was about 30 minutes. I needed to find this girl quick and cancel it out. Time skip I couldn't find her, and the countdown in my head was still going on. I was pretty out of it and began muttering to myself about what will happen to the girl. I wanted to undo my quirk on her. I was tired from the exam. What will Dad do when he finds out about this? All of a sudden I hear someone suddenly stand and say something about the robots for the exam. "And you with the curly hair and freckles," the plain-looking 1-inch. I shot up and saw the blue-haired and glasses boy. Another scary person, I thought. I pointed at myself just to make sure he was looking at me. "Yes, you are here to sleep and mutter to yourself, then please go home," he said. I was taken aback a bit. Was that much of a distraction? Your muttering and laid-back attitude is disturbing everyone. My sleepiness is a side effect of my quirk. I told him, "Sorry if I was a bother," I meekly apologized. "Okay, student number Izuku." Uncle Hisashi shouted and looked up to me. Kaken looked confused beside me, and so did glasses and probably everyone else. "You're but out of there, you're supposed to be with the recommended," I looked at for a. And then it struck, I was worrying too much. I didn't hear the recommended being called. But the girl, I thought. "Get down here quick and don't touch anyone." "Sensei, don't you think that's a bit harsh?" Glasses shouted. "It's okay," I told him. The only way to get down was to practically jump down. That way I don't touch anyone. The timer in my head was still counting. I decided I'd do it and have Present Mike call her up so I can undo my quirk. Got on the table and leaped off. The hell of a training I did, pretty strengthen my legs and arms to the extent it seemed inhuman. But Dad is like that, so I guess father like son. I leaped away and stunned the whole crowd behind me. I heard a tch from Kaken. I told Uncle Mike about the nice person, and he gladly called her to the front. Everyone stared, and the girl seemed uncomfortable. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked, worried. "No, it was me," I panicked. "It my quirk can suppress other quirks. You see," I explained, "I can either stare at someone to suppress it, or just a little physical contact can suppress it. Is that why I couldn't feel my quirk?" she asked, sounding Slightly relieved, "I'll fix you right away." All I had to do was flick her head and the timer in my head was gone, which meant her quirk was back. We both let out a sigh of relief. I hurried out the room and I could feel Kaken glaring at me. He was probably wondering about how I got the recommendation. After the recommended were tested, I hurried to see the others in the exam. During the tests I saw Todoroki Shudo. We had met before when we were younger, but the guy never wanted to talk. Man, he hated his dad. During the practical exam for the other students, I could see them destroying the bots with ease. Now that I think about it, I had no doubt in my mind that Kaken would ace this exam. "It's almost time, Uncle," Mike said as we watched from the tower. The ground started to shake, and from there I could see a gigantic 0-point robot rise from wherever it came from. "Is that even allowed?" I screamed in my head. I watched the students scurry and run for their lives. Uncle Mike was pressing on the students, causing them to run faster by counting down. I sometimes wondered if he caught Dad's sadistic nature. Just then dread filled my stomach as I saw the nice girl lie on the ground, her foot stuck in between fallen debris. "It would be bad luck if you fell down," her words rang through my head. Third-person POV. All of a sudden power overflowed in Deku's body as it began to move on its own. He readied his scarf as he used the strange power to blast himself to the robot. The scarf suddenly grew longer than it already was and wrapped around the giant metal beast and stood in front of the fallen girl. With a single pull, the scarf sharpened like blades and sliced the robot, followed by explosions as it began to collapse. Deku picked up the injured girl and ran for cover. "And time's up, and what the heck was that?" Izuku present, Mike shouted, and when turned and saw the destruction he caused, he was dumbfounded. Aizawa stood there gawking at the sudden destruction. What the heck was that? Where did all that power come from? He was sure Izuku's quirk was erasure-based like his. Inko had weak telekinesis. He watched his son through the screen. He was equally as bald as he was. He would need to talk it out with him, but then that would give away his surprise. They'll have him bring it up instead then. That he was pretty sure he would do, considering the fact the kid was a motor mouth of muttering. He counted down the hours, then on cue the door flung open and a muttering mess of Izuku came running in the house. "Dad, I got another quirk?" he shouted. He regretted letting Mike hang around the house. It was swoosh and wah, he tried to explain, swinging a fist in the air and pulling at his capturing gear. And these turned into blades and... "All right, kid, in the car. We're going to the hospital," Aizawa said, getting up and wrapping his kid in his own capturing. He was just like his mom when it came to muttering things and sometimes nonsense. Remembered the day he found out they were biologically related. Izuku was happy and also sad. Hisashi must have been a good dad. They managed to move past the past, but the kid still sometimes woke from nightmares. I heard from Yamada. Izuku quickly ran to his room and came back with a dark green shirt and black shorts, pulled on his signature red shoe and walked out the door with his dad following from behind. "At the hospital. Now this is very interesting," doctor said, looking at the results he got from the tests he had done on Izuku. Aizawa didn't like it. When someone said interesting, it either meant bad or really bad to him. Young Aizawa has a quirk that allows him to develop new quirks. The Aizawa's eyes grew wide. Allows more quirks to be developed. Does such a quirk even exist? It seems his inherited in through his maternal genes, meaning from his mother, the doctor said. He taken both Izuku and Shoyuta DNA samples and tested it. Your base quirk is the quirk you have undoubtedly inherited from your father, so you could say it is much stronger than the one from your mother's side, but being able to develop more quirks can be dangerous, so it would be best if checked in every month or so we can do more studies and research. Aizawa POV, what the hell? Inko never had a quirk like that. I tried not show the shock on my face, but my widened eyes said it all. I'm glad my quirk that I passed to him is more DMNT, but this is like having two quirks, one allowing the development of others. Thanks to Izuku's quirk suppress The speed of which the quirks are developing is slow. If he didn't have it, then I'm pretty sure your son would have been deformed even on our fellow mutant standards and would have lost his mind due to all the power from the quirks he would develop. I watched the blood drain from Izuku's face. Then he grabbed me. Thank you for being my dad, he cried. I let out a relieved sigh and patted his head. You're lucky you're the son of Erasure Head, the doctor said to Izuku. The kid headbanged like crazy with tears. When we were making our way out the hospital, I thought of a couple of things. The brat is going to need more training to learn how to control his new quirks. I couldn't help but grin. The kid made a run for the nearest window. Not today. Please have mercy, the brat screeched as I pulled him back with the binding gear. To beat the brat Bakugo, you ain't getting a wink. You won't be getting much. Sleep yourself, other. The brat struggled to break free as I began dragging him out. Now to train. That new quirk of yours, I exclaimed and dragged my son to his hell. Izuku POV dad is probably the only one immune to my suppression quirk. Erasure types probably can erase or suppress themselves. The training was hell. My fighting style was pretty much like his. Surprise. Attacks and so forth. I decided not be too much like him, so I learned how to do close-ranged combat. I'm glad to say I might be better than him in that area. I added a couple more things to my arsenal, like combat knives. With my costume I could easily stash a number of them in it. And 2 handguns. Desert Eagles, 1 white and 1 black. When I first told my dad that I wanted guns, he choked on his koi. Right now he was holding on to them. I called my new quirk Razor Extend. Basically it's like a power-up quirk. I become stronger, and anything I recognize as a weapon or tool, I can freely extend and turn it into a razor-sharp blade. Blunt knife, for example, I can make it stronger and sharper and longer. The drawback is, my skin hardens and cracks. Today was the first day of UA. Hopefully I can use training at school as an excuse to skip training with Dad. Dad went ahead early saying he was getting my surprise ready. What that meant, I hoped it wasn't much heart-attacking surprise. The Grand U.A building came to view and I couldn't help but smile. I searched for the class I was in, then I found it. The door was big. I wondered if it was accessible. I hoped no scary people from the entrance. Exam was not here. Kaken and the glasses kid popped into my head. I opened the door and found them. Get your feet off the table, don't disrespect the senpai that once sat at this desk. The blue head shouted at Kaken. Huh? Who the hell are you? Kaken shot back. Forgive me. I am Ida Tenya from semi-private ACA. So you're a Damon Elite, that's fine, I'll enjoy crushing you. Crush? Do you wish to become a hero? All of a sudden their gazes drifted to me. Kaken teased and then Ida walked up. You, he said, doing weird hand movements. I am Ida. Sorry, I overheard. I told him, you noticed something in the exam that I didn't, he said. Forgive me, but you are better than me. Honestly, I'm sorry, Ida, but what are you talking about? Wondered. I am. Suddenly I felt a bubbly person pop up from behind me. You're the curly-haired plain one with the freckles. You were so cool with your scarf, she said, bouncing up and down like a bundle of joy. I'm Yururika Achako. I'm Izuku A. Go somewhere else if you want to play at making friends. Time is precious. You kids aren't rational enough, the yellow demon caterpillar said, appearing behind Yururika. She looked terrified, but not as much as I was. Third person POV, you. Izuku screeched and scrambled into a corner. Now that you have my attention, I'm Aizawa Shoyuda. I'm your homeroom teacher. This is sudden, but put this on and meet me in the training ground, he said, holding up a U.A sports uniform. Ignored the fear-stricken boy and walked out, leaving the boy mutter to himself in the corner as he shook in fear. Everyone walked out, Izuku the last. Don't you think it was a little bit too rude to scream like that in front of your new teacher? Ida tried to lecture Izuku, but the boy knew about the said man more than anyone did. You're Erasure Head, aren't you? Bakugo asked, walking up to the pro hero that was their teacher. Everyone began whispering and asking each other if they heard of him. Underground hero Erasure head, my brother has told me much about you. Everyone turned to Ida. Right now it only seemed as though only 3 people recognized the sleepy-looking terror-filled green hair, the one that looked to have a short temper, and the robotic one. Will have a quirk assessment test. What about homeroom? Yurika asked. And didn't we already test out our quirks during the exam? This is just as important, knowing your limits will help you to push past them. Bakugo, what was record for ball throwing in middle school? 75. Bakugo replied, trying tossing this with your quirk. Bakugo took the ball and stood in the center of the circle. I don't care how you do it as long as you throw the ball. They watched as Bakugo got ready, and with an explosion he sent the ball up, shouting, "Shiny!" Izuku's sweat dropped at the fact the pro hero looked at the recording device, then showed the class. 705.3 Excited muttering could be heard from the students. Give it your all and don't half-ass anything. The person with the lowest scores will be expelled on the spot. But that's not fair. Someone said, natural disasters that occur are not fair. Anything can happen, so that means our hero must always be prepared, he said, combing his hair back with a free hand. The gesture just made Izuku shudder more. The test commenced, Izuku mostly relying on his actual strength and no quirk. He stayed clear of the others, careful not to touch them. And finally the last test came. The ball throw. Oi-sensei, you said we all could use our quirks. The DMN Deku didn't use his yet. Bakugo shouted. A grin grew on Erasure head face. Why don't you show them the new quirk you got, he said to Izuku. The boy swallowed head. He remembered when he was only using the power-up factor of this quirk. His skin hardened and turned gray as he concentrated. In a one swell motion he sent the ball flying into the sky, dropping down a minute or 2 later. Aizawa looked at the record and showed it to the class. 708.9 Bakugo cringed at the fact Deku got a higher point. At the fact that Deku had another quirk. He believed he had lied to him for his whole life about only having one quirk. Oi Deku, what the hell was that? Shouted and charged out at Deku. Everyone watched wide-eyed when suddenly, Bakugo couldn't move. He was held in place by the white scarf that belonged to their teacher. Stop making me use my quirk, for heaven's sake, I have dry eyes, he exclaimed. After saying, he pulled out an eyedropper and used it on his eyes. After the test, he showed the class their results. Izuku let out a breath of relief. Thanks to his skills, he managed to stay in between the top and bottom. Mineta Minoru wasn't very lucky, as he was the last. The BLD drained from his face as tears began to form. Oh, by the way, about the expulsion, that was a lie. It was just a ruse to help you bring out your full potential. Mineta form turned white and everyone went into a frenzy of yelling and screaming. Ida in the lead. Izuku went and tried to comfort Mineta, but ended up sulking beside him. You guys can have the rest of the time to do whatever you want, just don't disturb me, the teacher said, getting back into his caterpillar form. Well, why don't we introduce ourselves? I'm Yurika Achiko. My quirk is zero gravity, the wonderfully bubbly girl said as she stood up. Izuku blushed a bit, then hid his face. The introductions went on, then it was finally Izuku's turn. My name is Izuku Aizawa. My quirk is suppress and erasure extend. Most of the class took a moment to process the information. Aizawa as in him. Ashido Mina shouted, pointing at the caterpillar man. Ah yes, Izuku said meekly. Everyone finally understood his reaction when he saw the teacher this morning. Don't worry, they all said together, looking at the poor young Aizawa. When they went for lunch, he was joined by Ida. Forgive for my rude actions, it we uncalled for, but I am still wondering why you were so frightened by your own father. The hell of a training he's going to put us all through will make you cry yourself to sleep. It's going to hell from here on out. No one is get as much of a wink of sleep. That is a sadistic SLV driver. The hell I've been through. Izuku shuddered as he spoke. The BLD drained from Ida's face as he watched his classmate. What kind of life have you lived? Ida shouted, sounding horrified and concerned. Hey, can I sit with you? Uraraka shouted out. Izuku is fine, but I heard that Bakugo boy calling you Deku. Was a nickname given to me by him which meant useless. But it sounded like a Japanese word for, you can do it, Uraraka said with a smile. Call me Izuku said with a face as red as tomato. Aizawa, and wasn't that an insult? Ida said looking down at him. A Copernicus revolution, Izuku said hiding the blush on his face. Cope. Uraraka said confused as the days went by. Izuku began to fit in with his new class. It seemed distant at first because Izuku kept on avoiding them. He gladly explained his quirk, and so they understood. The morning lessons were quite boring in a word, but what did you expect? Izuku thought. Just cause it's the hero course doesn't mean you won't be getting general education. As the passed by slowly, the hero lesson finally came. I am here. Coming through the door like a normal person. That all too familiar voice called as All Might. Walked through the door. Everyone cheered to see the number one hero. Asking question about his costume and so forth. We will be having a combat lesson training, so put on your costume. And follow me, Izuku POV. After getting changed and walking out, I notice everyone is a bit excited. They all looked at me and I couldn't help but blush a bit. The color of my costume was mostly black. My jacket was a leather-like material that had dark green stripes down the sleeve. My pants as well was a similar material. Under my jacket was a tight sleeveless turtleneck. Wore black fingerless gloves. My costume had a number of hidden compartments where I hide my blades. Of course there's a place for my guns. Under my jacket behind my back where it was easy to pull out. Finally my gray-white capturing gear and red metal mouth guard / mask. Last but the most eye-catching part, my red signature boots. Modified to hide a blade or two. Deku, you look so cool, Uraraka said as she came bouncing over. My face turned red when I saw her. I should have asked what I wanted. It seems my suit ended up being a tight bodysuit, she says blushing. How can she be this cute? No, I think you look great. I noticed Mineta doing it. Thumbs up. His face looking as though he was in heaven. I couldn't help but feel a little ticked. My scarf wrapped around him and squeezed. Mineta, please stop looking at the girls. Internally I meant Uraraka. The small purple boy flinched as tears began to well in his eyes. Everyone turned around to see my hair raised and eyes red. Aizawa-sensei is here, they all thought. We were all split into pairs and I ended up being with Uraraka. It must be Faith, thought. Ida and Kaken was the team we were going up against. This won't go so good, thought. Nobody POV. All Might and the rest of the class watched the villain team, Bakugo and Ida, walk into the building. With young Aizawa's quirk, the hero team has a high chance of winning, he thought. All Might heard about the boy from his father. Apparently it seemed as though he was the only one immune to his son's own quirk. The boy had the ability to paralyze mutant types, which was something that even the real erasure head can't do, and the fact that any physical contact with the boy meant suppression of quirk. With that kind of quirk he could easily go up against the strongest of villains, plus the new quirk he had developed. The ability to develop new quirks. He knew of the ability to take quirks and use them all at once, but to develop new quirks. All Might looked at the boy that could possibly be a powerhouse of quirks in the near future. Deku's plan was simple. He knew Bakugo would come after him, and with that it would give Uraraka the chance to go after the weapon. If his estimations were right, then they would have a fair chance of winning this battle. When they entered, they split up, staying in contact, using the headphones they were given. Soon enough Bakugo came at Izuku, firing of an explosion in his face. It left a slight burn, but his mask protected him. He charged at him, but knowing about his quirk, Bakugo managed to dodge, avoiding all physical contact and staying out his line of sight. Bakugo is really quick, Kaminari said, watching from the monitoring room. Being childhood friends, they probably know pretty much each other weakness, All Might told. Plus, the two boys dodged each other like mad men. Oi Deku, why don't use that new lashy quirk of your that you've been hissing. Izuku still couldn't truly his new quirk and refrained from using it. He could easily go overboard and kill someone. Kaken made it front of him and as Deku was about to erase/suppress his quirk, Bakugo let out a series of bright sparks in his face. The brightness flared up in front of him. The bright light was blinding, the heat was excruciating. Izuku stumbled back, letting out a short pained screech. He got blinded, but not permanently. His vision would come back, but at the moment he was completely helpless. Oi, going after the eyes isn't manly at all, Kirishima commented. Eyes wide staring at the screen before him. All Might knew it wasn't fair and the act itself was dangerous enough. But as a hero, sometimes you'll have to rely on some dirty tricks. Why aren't you showing OA that flashy quirk of your Deku? Bakugo shouted. Uraraka had made it to the room to find an all too serious Ida. And the weapon. She was sadly caught after trying to stifle a laugh which had brought Ida's attention. She stood ready to fight and waited for Deku's signal. Bakugo was mad. The nerd he thought had been hiding an impressive quirk while probably fun of him all these years. Little did he know that the green-haired boy had just gotten it a few weeks ago with only an idea about how to control it. If you won't show me, then I'll make you, the angry ash blonde shouted. Now wait, Kaken, I can't control the quirk, Izuku tried to explain. Eyes still closed, not knowing what would happen. My costume was designed to help me build up sweat, so I'm pretty sure. You know what that means. He raised a gauntlet hand at the currently blind Izuku. All Might had to stop this fight. He knew the blast could kill the boy. But Bakugo, stop. The boy pulled the pin of his gauntlet. A massive explosion came and blasted the green-haired boy. Everyone in the monitoring room stood frozen as they dreaded what they would see. Bakugo stood there, frozen. The boy he intended to defeat didn't try to dodge. The reason why I'm not using this quirk. Izuku's voice came. Everyone in the monitoring room stood frozen as they watched the smoke clear to reveal the green-haired sleep-deprived boy. Skin hardened and gray. The whites of his eyes were black and irises red and glowing. Hair raised and scarf floating like razor-sharp blades. Teeth jagged. Is because it's hard to control. Izuku's skin began to crack and BLD began sleep through. He quickly deactivated. His energy depleted. Izuku didn't plan for this. At this rate, they would lose. He wasn't having any of it. Kaken. He being. A new strange power began to flow through him. You say that I've been hiding from you. He let his emotions take over. His mind had gone blank. He greeted his no normal teeth. Every day I've been training just to become a cure. To make my mom's wish for me to come true. To make my dead parents proud. To save innocent lives, so not to repeat what happened before. Bakugo watched his childhood friends. Hair began to glow bright. His eyes matching the color. The walls began to crack. Floor began to shake. And to defeat you, you idiot. Mighty you is not going to mean useless. Forever. Mighty means you can do it. Bakugo snapped and blasted an explosion at him, but he was too slow. Izuku punched the floor and the building shook and began to collapse. All Might and the rest of the students watched as the building began to collapse. Must be a new quirk, All Might thought. Uraraka took the collapsing building as a signal and touched whatever she could to minimize the damage. She touched a pillar and with it she shouted, "Comet home run." Wait! Shouted back, but it was too late. The petite brunette swung, sending debris at Ida at comet speed. Using her quirk on herself, she floated through the air and landed on the weapon. That was when she noticed the whole building was caving in on itself. She threw herself at Ida, making him float, then went to making under things float. In the monitoring room, everyone stood bald-mouthed agape as they watched the destruction take place. When everything settled, they saw the whole building was gone. Uraraka had let everything down and was now heaving on the ground. Ida patting her back to help her. Bless. Came, and out from the smoke came a bruised Bakugo carrying an unconscious Izuku. His face was contorted with rage. There was only one question running through his head at that moment. How many quirks those he have? The hero team had one, but they were the ones that were everyone was too bald to say anything. But even after the great destruction their classmates caused, they got oddly fired up and practically gave it their all. All Might had been listening to Aizawa and Bakugu's conversation. The boy was the perfect candidate to inherit, one for all. To save the innocent, All Might had heard of Izuku's past. To prevent more heart racing. To let the smile on the innocents' faces remain. Those ran through his whole being. He had decided that the green broccoli of Class 1A would become his successor. Izuku POV. I woke up in the infirmary. My head was pounding. I felt like I was going hurl. It seems when you're unconscious your suppression quirk doesn't work, Recovery Girl's voice came. I turned to see her, handing some candy to me. She walked away after checking up on me. Beside me on another I saw Yururika. I got worried and went to see her. She was up and told me she was okay. Her face then fell and she looked me in the eye. I overheard your conversation with Bakugu, she said. This was a painful subject for me to revisit the past, but I couldn't let her worry. I told her about my life. My life before my biological father took me in. The day the villain killed my family. The day my dad found me. A stray tear ran down her cheek as I told her the reason why I wanted to become a hero. It didn't matter if I was the number 1 or 0, all I wanted was to help stop what happened to me from happening to other people. She then gave me her pinky. Let's become great heroes together. I promise you, Deku, that I will follow you. You have the most heroic heart there is. You can do it, she told me, whipping away her tears, then turning red from what she said. I took it and promised her. To have someone say I could do it brought tears to my eyes. The voices of my first parents ran through my head. It's been so long, but for the first time in a long time I heard them. They had told me, you can do it. That is what my Deku meant. Aizawa POV. I had come to check on my problem child only to find him smiling a truly genuine smile. Tears pouring down, meaning he had finally come to terms with his bottled up feelings. It was contagious. So many years, and this was probably the first time he was able to smile like that. Again. To tell someone else and not anyone that was closer. Yururika was good for him. The days seemed to be looking up now. I left the two on their own. Walking home, Izuku didn't expect to stop by Bakugu. Kaken. The two boys stood facing each other. Izuku thought this might be his chance. He had gained a new quirk today and it was just as dangerous as the first one. He remembered what the doctor had told him before. He could end up losing control if gains more power. Like today when his new power brought down the whole building. What the heck is up with you? The spiky blonde asked calmly. It's not a secret, so I'll just tell you. Izuku sighed. He decided, if he were to lose control, he'll have the one person he used play with, grew up with, and the one he saw as a rival stop him. I have 2 quirks. One I obviously inherited from my dad and another I got from my mom's side. Bakugu didn't know what to make of this new information. Izuku remembered what the doctor said before when he learnt of this quirk. Kaken, I want you to promise me something. Why the hell would I promise you a thing? Bakugu cringed. So you can be number 1. Bakugu looked at his childhood friend that seemed like he held no fear. Just pure determination. The quirk I got from my mother's side skipped a generation and mutated along the way, Izuku explained calmly as he looked at his palm. It allows me to develop new quirks. There was a short span of silence as Bakugu tried to process the new information. Erasure, extend, and the new quirk I got today are probably the first ones I will develop. The doctors said suppress is helping with keeping the new one suppressed, but I have this nagging feeling that sooner or later this quirk I got from mom will break loose. Oi, in nerd, what are trying to make me promise? Bakugu dreaded the there in front of him was his childhood friend filled with pure determination. Boy wanted him to copy. He dreaded the words he would say even more when he looked into his power can corrupt the mind and destroy it. Izuku held out fist at his childhood friend. If it Ever lose control of myself, I want you to destroy me. Bakugo froze on the spot. What are you trying to make me do? He asked. Izuku just smiled at his childhood friend. I really want to be Hero Kaken, he told him. That's why I'm going to try my best and hold out long enough. But with this quirk I'm going to start losing my mind. For old time's sake, promise me this, he asked. Bakugo. As he was about to let his hand fall, the ash blonde bumped his fist against his. You better become a hero first before I destroy you, he said, and walked away, leaving Izuku slightly bald. The days were looking up for him now. With a smile he walked home with Skip with the beat. Knew his childhood friend would keep his promise. They had promised without realizing a certain number one hero eavesdropping on their conversation. In an empty bar, a bartender, whose body was like a dark purple mist, was cleaning a couple of glasses, and a young who looked to be in his early 20s sat, a disembodied hand on his face. It's almost time, Kurogyari, he said, scratching his neck. Said to bring back a certain kid, he told the purple mist his grandson, Kurogyari stated, looking at the young. I was quite surprised when he said he had one. How are you feeling about it, Shigaraki Tamura? He asked. It's annoying. Why does Emister want that? Hero child, Shigaraki said, annoyed. BNHA wants his quirk. He wasn't able to obtain it years ago, and now that it has manifested, we must make sure to get a hold of it, the bartender stated. With his knowledge, he can choose to develop a healing quirk and heal himself. You're right, Shigaraki said, his eyes widening. Then Nessa can still be here and get better. Are we ready? He asked the purple mist. We are almost there. We will strike soon. Aizawa POV. All Might came to me, and I began to wonder why the man wanted to see me. Your son is truly amazing, he said with a smile in his skeletal form. He's just like his mom. Always so kind and caring. The brat doesn't know how to not help someone, I sighed. The kid got into more trouble just because his body moves on his own. Problem child is better than me, that I know. Problem child? All Might thought. Is that what he calls his own son? This coming from a man who got a life ban from several supermarkets with the pro hero Igenium and present Mike. All Might sweat dropped at the fact. I needed sleep and really wanted to have All Might get to the point already. The next class was starting soon. I decided to take a long sip from my I want to make your son my successor. The koi went down the wrong pipe as I quickly spit it out and began coughing. I looked at the man, and all I saw was him in his muscle form. That's our decision for problem child to make, I told the man. I know of your fears, Aizawa. With one for all, it may help strengthen his suppression quirk, since it's more DMNT, with his erasing abilities that practically demolishes mine. If added with one for all, he may become overpowering. There's no such thing as overpowering. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The villains are getting stronger and smarter by the day. It is only a matter of time before they strike. All Might said as the steam cleared and he returned to his normal form. Young Aizawa has showed the greatest potential of being the next symbol of peace, he said, clenching his fist. I want make him become the greatest hero. I grinned and looked at the blonde. His mother would love that, I told him with a smile. Be it the symbol of peace or an underground hero, the brat's still gonna be hero no matter what. No one. POV. Izuku sat and waited for his teacher to get to class. Oi Deku, where the heck is your old man? Bakugo shouted / yelled. I'm not sure, he left before me, he said. Tired. How is it that you're here before him and he's not here? Kaminari asked. The doors opened, and their sensei walked in. Good morning, he said, and the others followed in suit. Good morning, sir, most of the class said in sync. Said for the son of the number 2 hero and the walking time bomb. We're going to be something very important today. Everyone held their breath and waited for what he would say. We are going to select class representatives. Everyone let out a breath of relief. They were finally doing something normal. What was normal? Anyway, they all thought. Just then everyone raised their hands and yelled, "Pick me!" Izuku, having ended becoming like his father, didn't quite like the attention and didn't really want to be a class representative. He sat there and let out a breath of relief. You'll be voting for who you Want to become the class representatives, so write down the name of who you want and place it. In this box, Aizawa-sensei said, placing a box on the front table. Oh yeah, problem child. Called to his son. Problem child? Everyone thought as they all sweat dropped. Who could that be? That wondered. Yes, Dad. The class dubbed Sleepy Cinnamon Roll / Silent Killer replied. Someone wants to see you, so after you're done go to the teacher's lounge. Ah, yes. The boy said, and walked out, placing his vote in the box. Why did he call him problem child? Almost everyone thought, but Yururika just giggled. In the teacher's lounge, Izuku came face to face with All Might. How are you doing, young Aizawa? All Might said in his true form. Were you the one that wanted to see me? Izuku asked, looking somewhat worried and confused. Yes, I was the one who asked, All Might replied and motioned for the boy to take a seat before him. It only been a few weeks, but young Aizawa, I've seen your determination. Tell me why you want to become a hero. Izuku didn't know where this was going or why the number one hero wanted to speak to him, but to be asked why he wants to become a hero meant telling the pro hero his past. But he already told a friend and he felt lighter, and so he began. When I was younger, my mother and father, Hisashi Midoriya, always told me to follow my dreams. I want to avenge them, but more importantly, I want to prevent such things from happening to anyone else. I want their smiles to remain the way they are. I'm grateful for what happened after, though. I got meet my real dad and train beside him and meet other heroes, but I may be an Aizawa by BLD, but I'm still a Midoriya. The two people who had raised me and cared for me unconditionally till their last breath, I will make sure to keep my promise to them, Izuku said, clenching his fist and looking at All Might in the eyes. All Might smiled his signature smile and transformed into his muscle form and pointed the fist at the boy. Right answer, he said with his booming voice. Young Aizawa, I want to make you my successor. Izuku looked at him dumbfounded. What? I want you to inherit my power. One for all, All Might said. Wait, you can't be serious. Why don't you think this through, All Might? Izuku said, trying to clam down from the shock so he could process what was happening to him. With a poof, All Might returned to his normal form. My time is running out and I need a successor. With the short time of knowing you, he said, pointing at Izuku, I have seen a heart for more heroic than any I have ever seen. Doesn't your body move on its own? Izuku nodded. That is what makes a true hero. It is instinct. To protect. To be selfless. To sacrifice your own being before your mind even can process what is being done. But All Might, the quirk I inherited from my mother's side, I overheard your conversation with young Deku, All Might said. Izuku stood frozen on the spot. He knew, so why? I had gone to try and comfort the boy, but you didn't even. I know your friend will hold up to his promise when the time comes, and I wish to also prevent it. With one for all, it can strengthen, suppress, while giving you power as well. Be the hero all your parents wanted and want you to be. Be the surprise that your scary father raised. Be the hero you want to be. We all know you can do it. Doesn't your Deku mean that? Izuku was done with this emotional roller coaster. He let the tears fall freely. What do you say, young Aizawa? All Might asked one last time. Yes, he said, his posture straighter with the brightest smile that he had in his arsenal that could melt the coldest of hearts. All Might smiled and rualed the boy's hair. You are already a good vessel, but after I give you, I'm pretty sure you father is going give you another hell to help train you. At first I had, though you were quite skinny for your age, but then I learned you were quite lean, and so I'll give you one for all right away. But you'll have to give my quirk back first, the number one hero said, noticing his quirk was gone. Izuku let out a chuckle and flicked his forehead. Izuku stood straighter as he imagined how the quirk would be passed on. All Might transformed into his muscle form and pulled a strand of hair from his head. And now, he said, and looked at the young hero in training. Eat this. What? Bonus, I used to be a responsible teenager, Aizawa Shoyuta told his class. Izuku didn't know what to make of this information. All of a sudden, Ida put his hand up and looked at his teacher. one hand across his chest and another doing his air-chopping movement. "I'm sorry, sir, but my brother had said that you, him, and present Mike Sensei had gotten 3 life bans from 3 different supermarkets because he pushed you two around in a shopping cart at full speed and crashed into a food cart." The whole class went quiet, and sweat dropped. Izuku all of a sudden stood up and yelled, sudden realization hitting him like a bus. "That's why those managers kicked me out." Bakugo couldn't help and smirk. And everyone else were glad they weren't related to this insomniacs. "Don't worry, Aizawa-kun, I know how you feel," Ida said, walking up to him. He had the same disappointed look. "Probably go kicked out. I don't know what you brats are talking about, and tell your brother shut his mouth." His denying it but just defended. The class thought and sweat dropped. Eating the number 1 hero's hair was probably the most weirdest thing he had ever done. All Might told him that the activated like how he would activate Erasure Extend. It then finally hit him. He still haven't his other quirk registered or tested out to see what it was like. He was walking back to class after All Might had told him the story of One for All and its origin. How it came from a man call all of one. Dread filled with stomach. It made him feel sick. The ability to have multiple quirks, as All Might stated, the number 1 villain had sounded a lot like his own. The ability to take quirks. It sounded like that killed his mother and stepfather. If you remembered that culprit was never found and they had pinned the cause of the fire on Hisashi Midoriya. That couldn't be true because the man was always careful since he had a fire-related quirk and he just burned to a crisp as his mother. The past and his quirks boggled his mind. He felt sleep deprived and wanted to just pull out his sleeping bag and take a nap in it. The moment he returned, he saw the results of who would be the class representative on the board. To his eyes, thinking he wasn't seeing things right. On the board was his name and Yaoyorozu. "Problem child, welcome back," Aizawa-sensei said in a deadpan voice. The class still not sure what to make of the strange nickname. Izuku walked to the front and stood beside Yaoyorozu. And with the same deadpan expression and tone as his father, he said, "I am not going to be class representative." "But why would you decline your classmates' choices?" Ida said, standing up and doing his weird hand movements. "Because I know of a better person that can lead." His tone, almost as identical as Aizawa-sensei. His expression blank. Only his father knew that was his surprised look. The said man was in his sleeping bag sleeping. Izuku contemplated whether to kick him and run for dear life, join him, or toss him out the window for not telling the class he didn't like attention. "Ida, I voted for you because I knew you would be better class representative." Ida wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. He guessed he wasn't expecting anyone to vote for him. "I really don't like a lot of attention and it makes me flustered easily," and the class let out a sigh of relief as their classmate returned to the usual muttering self and not Junior Aizawa-sensei. "Then it's settled. Ida will be the class representative," the screw-eye man said, appearing beside Izuku, making him want to jump out his skin as he almost ran and hid behind Yaoyorozu. "What kind of hell did he put you through?" The class wanted to ask him but was afraid to. The lunch bell rang and the class filed out. Ida looking both disappointed and who knew one could express opposite expressions at the same time. "I believed you would be a great class representative. That is why I voted for you, Aizawa-kun," he trailed of, "but I thank you for believing in me. It's now problem. I don't plan to stand out much when I become a hero. As long as I get to help people and follow my dream," Izuku told his 2 friends. They sat down and Yururika began to look as though she was putting 2 things together. "Hey Ida, you wouldn't happen to be a rich boy, would you?" Ida's face suddenly fell. "I was trying to hide the fact by changing the way I speak." He was admitting defeat as he spoke. "But I guess it's no use. You know the pro-hero ingenium. Who wouldn't know?" Izuku began to fanboy and Ida seemed to be delighted. "He is my brother and I wish to be a hero just like him." Izuku seemed to be excited even more. Meeting someone related to a pro-hero apart from the Bud endeavor. "I'm also related to a pro-hero," he told himself. Just then alarms began to cry throughout the field. Students were questioning what was happening and began to panic. While Izuku dodged everyone not touching anyone, he noticed his two friends get dragged into the swarm of panicking students. Izuku looked out the window and just saw the press. He let out a breath of relief. But now he needed to help find a way to calm everyone down. He spotted Ida trying break free. He shouted at him and pointed out. The tall boy saw what he had seen and quickly made a decision. He saw his other friend struggling in the crowd. He called out to her and got her attention. The fear-fueled students just making everything worse. Make me float. Called out her and reached out. He just prayed that their green-haired friend wasn't accidentally suppressing her quirk. The moment their fingers touched, he was glad for having a beyond considerate friend like Izuku. He blasted himself using his engines and slammed himself above on the wall in the emergency exit. Everything is all right. It is just the press. This is a school being thought by pro-heroes. Everything is all right. Everyone began to calm down as they noticed the press outside being pushed back by their teachers and police arriving at the scene. Izuku dropped to the floor and sighed in relief. Was the reason why he voted for Ida. He was clear-cut and precise. Aizawa POV. After classes, everyone was sent home. Told Izuku to stay a bit so we could train his new quirk. But at the moment I was occupied with something else and told the kid not to come out. He was too smart for his age and the way his always muttering and mumbling he could cause another panic to start. That if the loud and explosive Bakugu wasn't around. Otherwise it just seemed like incoherent mumbling as usual. There we stood. Me and a couple more teachers staring at a hole carved through the nation's top security system. You didn't have many blind spots and we all wondered if it was one of the people from the press. Aizawa-kun, could you call your son to come out and have him analyze this? Nedzu asked. I looked down to the small rodent-like principal. Why do Izuku want to analyze this? I asked, but still ended up fishing out my phone and calling the kid. Your son is quite observant for his age and could probably be one brightest minds of our age. The green mop became visible from the opposite side as he came running. He looked terrified to see the hole but held it together. Young Aizawa, what would you make of this situation? Nedzu asked as me and the other teachers began to contemplate what it was. We just about to declare that it was one of the press, but then Izuku spoke up, breaking us all from our conversation. The way in which the hole was made was definitely caused by a quirk. Something to do with disintegrating, eroding, aging, or even decaying, considering the fact that the wall doesn't have any sign impact. We listened without question. Yamada and Namuri had told the whole Estelle about my kids' smarts and now they were seeing proof. Considering the fact that this was probably one of the only few blind spots that UA has, it can't be a coincidence. This school has one of the top security systems. The press know better than to use their quirks in public, and I'm pretty sure neither of them would dare to do this. The person who could have done this probably lingered around with the crowd, hidden from the cameras, and made the hole, allowing the press into cause a panic while probably distracting the whole school from something clicked. We all had been too busy teaching and try and get the press back without realizing someone probably snuck in. The safety of the students was now on the line. This isn't just some press break-in incident, Izuku said, standing and turning to face us all. He looked straight into our eyes and was confident with his find. This was declaration of war. Aizawa POV. We sat in Nedzu's Oitsa considering what to do with the new information. Izuku has proved and explained that the break-in was a clear-cut declaration of war. The most obvious guess are the villains. Midnight said, folding her hands across her chest. I was annoyed, aggravated, and sure as hell pissed. Shitty villains always ruining everything. We may know not if their aim, but for one thing, they are pretty brave to pick a fight with us, Vlad King said. We may need to bua up our students a bit more and put up extra security. The students come first, so I will be planning out shifts for you all to patrol the area after classes and to make sure students get home safe and sound. One particular student, however, will need to be constantly watched. I didn't need to ask who. Already knew. He was top priority on my list. Like hell I'd lose another dear thing in this crappy life of mine. Izuku-kun. Nedza called for my problem child who was sitting outside the Oiza. Everyone seemed confused. I guess I never shared the fact about his quirk. Young Aizawa will be the one that will need the most attention. The boy flinched at the word. Everyone stood and listened. Then finally Yamada spoke up. Why does Mini Erasure Head need the most attention? It's because of his quirk. They looked at me funny. I mean quirks. Izuku not so long ago developed a quirk allowing him to develop new quirks. The quirk he used during the entrance exam and the combat training yesterday were just the first few quirks he had developed. His Diamond T quirk is helping to keep it suppressed, but time can only tell for how long. I tried to hide the panic in my voice, but it seemed this Diamond co-workers knew me better than I knew myself. The villains found out that Izuku had such a quirk they'll do anything to get him. From now on, Izuku, you will always be in the presence of a member of the school. You travel to school with your father and travel back with him and not leave your home without him. I could see him clenching his fist. I could tell what he was thinking. He was 15, he didn't need babysitting, but the logical part of his mind was telling him that the principal was right. Sometime later, after everyone left, I sat outside with my kid in the pristine silences. No Mike and Midnight around, because they were sent out on patrol. I'm guessing All Might told you what he wanted. Knowing you accepted. Say, Dad, do you think it can be hero? Izuku asked, looking up blankly. It feels like I'm causing trouble all over again. He seemed to be returning to his old self when he came to live with me. When we didn't know we were biologically related. Be by BLD or not, I don't regret taking him in. This kid was truly a problem child. I smacked him on the back of his head, sending him to flying the ground face first. Then wrapped him up in the capturing gear and squeezed tight to try and get some sense into him. Look here, Izuku, I didn't beat Maya's training you so you could doubt yourself. You're a stupid brat that's got a stupid big heroic heart. That alone already makes you a hero. You can do it, and I know everyone who supports you know that as well. Letting out a wha, I got down to his level. Stop doubting yourself already. I rualed his hair and gave a smile that I thought I wasn't capable of giving. This kid was rubbing off on me. Izuku POV. Dad had been my greatest supporter. To hell with this new quirk developing quirk. I will become a hero, and even as much I love my mother, I promised myself I would suppress the quirk till my dying breath. I'll be the hero my dad and All Might sees. A week went by and I had been sworn to secrecy about the villain declaration of war. It was hard hiding it from my friends. They just seemed to be getting more perceptive every day. During the said week I had been spending time with the errant teachers. All Might mostly though. He was just like Dad, but opposite. Caring and enthusiastic, getting me to enjoy the training. We had run for our lives once though when I shared a secret about Dad with him. The said man chased us while Quirkus. Yes, he took away our quirks and was playing a cat and mouse game. That was truly scary. Apart from that, the other teachers also took interest in me. Seeing how I deduced the hole in the security system, Ectoplasm had been spending his free time with me playing chess. We played chess furiously, getting tied over and over again. It was exhausting. Neither of us didn't want to lose the battle. We had ended up playing daring chess-like games to see who would win, to the point that he decided to put into practical. A day after school he took the opportunity to train me. Ida and Eureka began to wonder why I had been staying back and were asking questions. I was glad. They were worried for me, but I had to keep my word and stay quiet. I had been getting a hand on One for All. The activation was similar to Razor Extend, but with my current body condition I could only use up to 5%, so not to break anything. All Might, if Vessel wasn't strong enough, my hand and limbs would blow away. I had nightmares after that. No body POV. All of Class 1A sat in their seat waiting for their teacher to arrive. They had noticed that Izuku had been coming at the same time as Mr. Aizawa and stayed back later than the others. They wondered what was happening but decided that it must be a family thing. When the Aizawas entered, Izuku went straight to his seat and sat waiting for the announcement the teacher was going to make. Going to have a fundamental hero assessment, so put on your suits and follow me, was all he. Everyone was excited and hurried to put on their suit. Izuku dragged himself out his desk and went to fetch his suit. Everyone saw he looked as though he didn't get a wink of sleep. Hey, man, you okay? Kirishima asked, walking up to the greenite. The guilt of hiding something so major, the training to be the symbol of peace and the training to strengthen suppress had been taking a toll on him. I'm fine, I just didn't get enough sleep, he said, smiling a sheepish smile. Everyone get in line and sit in an orderly manner on the bus, Ida called. Sadly, there were no assigned seats on the bus, so everyone sat where they wanted. Poor Ida was in a gloomy state. Bonus, they have been at it for hours now, All Might in his skeletal form said, pointing at the pro-hero and young hero in training. Seems interesting, Nedza said, watching the two. An hour later, they still haven't won yet, Aizawa asked, walking into the room. The other two just sat and was sipping their tea. All the man did was hua and waited. This went on for another hour until Erasure had destroyed the board and dragged Izuku. No body POV. Mr. Aizawa had informed the class that they were heading to the unforeseen simulation joint, which was basically the USJ. Izuku was thinking about the villains they might do and so forth. He thought about the murder of his parents, about the man that had killed his parents. He remembered how that said man had come to his home through a purple mist. Aizawa had done everything he could find this villain. Everyone had given up on the case, but he knew that his pro-hero father didn't. The said man had fallen asleep on the bus, and Izuku wanted to also go to sleep, but he decided to focus on his friends. Aizawa-chan, you and Sensei are really alike, Azuitsayu said with a finger on her chin. I'll say this ahead, I always speak my mind, so don't get offended, okay? Everyone was chatting along and then getting to know each other. Yeah man, your quirk is quite manly, you could just get everyone into a fist fight where everything would be fair, Kirishima exclaimed. My quirk isn't that flashy and kinda looks plain, he said, hardening his hand. No, I think it passes on as a pro, Izuku said, beaming. He then noticed that Kirishima's hardening was similar to his. Hey, could you teach me how to do that? He asked his classmate. Oh, you have a hardening quirk as well. What was it called? Razor. Extend. If you all are talking about flashy quirks, then Bakugo and Todoroki are top on the list. But with Bakugo's personality, he'll never be popular. What did you say, UDMN tree? Frog, Bakugo shouted. See, Azui said, causing everyone to laugh. It's only been a short while. But it seems we already know Bakugo's personality is steep low in sewerage, Kaminari said. About the exploding boy, what did you say, Yuden extra, and what's with that vocabulary? Bakugo shouted back. Everyone is teasing Kaken, Izuku though. That's yay for you, they're the best of the best, he thought. By the way, Aizawa-chan, what's up with your quirk? It's like you have more than 1 inch. This perked a certain dual-colored boy's interest. Izuku looked for a way to answer and seemed to be coming up with none. Where here he was. Saved by the caterpillar, they walked out the bus and came to the USJ and a pro-hero in charge of it was there to greet them. Number 13. Yururika rejoiced as she saw the space hero. You like him, too? Izuku asked, going up to her. Yes, since we both have gravity-type quirks, she said happily. The class stood attentively as they listened to what their teachers were saying. Firstly, I'll tell you 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5. It's increasing, the whole class thought. Something didn't sit right with Izuku. He looked around. At the base near the shipwreck zone, he saw a purple mist. If he wasn't mistaken, the purple mist was like the one he saw years ago in his home. It grabbed his father, his breathing became heavy. His eyes in terror. Aizawa looked at him and turned to see what was happening. He saw the purple mist. He saw the villains walking out. Cool, there's even fake villains, some said sounding excited. Get back, they real, Aizawa told them, and horror immediately spread across their faces. Dad, they work for him, they are the ones that killed them, let me go. Izuku was frantic and angry. He knew it was the purple mist. From that night, Erasure had tried to hold back his son. A man with light blue hair stepped out, hands all over his body. We're here for Midoriya, he exclaimed with a manic laugh that sent Erasure head over the edge. He was still angry about Inko's death. He wasn't going to let them take his son. He threw back his kid, Shuji Meza catching him, and he told 13 to take care of them. He leapt away and ran straight for the leader, knocking out villains in the process. One began running, Izuku fighting against his classmate, but Shuji was too strong and had to carry back the struggling boy. Everyone was shocked to see their always modest classmate like this, Bakugo more so to see a beyond furious and grieving Izuku. Only he and Uraraka knew. But the man said they were after the Midoriya. Everyone was confused. There was no one in their class who was a Midoriya. Bakugo was the only one that knew. The purple mist came forward, appearing in front of them. Hand over Midoriya and you all will be spared, not chance F smog, Bakugo shouted and launched for the purple mist. Kirishima following by his. So they were instantly engulfed and were gone. Kurogyari sat the plan into motion, separating the children. Their target had disappeared and all the students were ready to fight for their lives. Kurogyari had no time and so just separated them all, putting 13 out of commission in the progress. This just seemed to make the children more mad. A few students remained. One with engines was ordered to go get help and began running. The warp gate went after him, but he began to float. He looked back, see a girl in pink. They found his weakness. Something attached itself to the equipment holding his physical form. As he began to feel pulled away, he watched as the boy with the engines escape and run at full speed to get back up. With Izuku was wrapped up in Shuji's arms. He and a few of his other classmates were at the shipwreck zone. Aizawa-chan, we need you to calm down, Azui told him. Izuku noticed where they were. It had seemed like he had blacked out for a moment and then woke up fine. They were on a boat. Him, Mineta, Shuji and Azui. Izuku POVI. Blacked out. I let my emotions get the best of me again. But those painful memories just came back way too fast. It seemed as though everyone was separated. You're quite strong for being one of the skinnier and shorter guys in class, Shuji said to me. Aizawa, what the hell is going on? Mineta asked, sounding terrified. I don't know, I lied. They wanted me for my quirk. Is your name really Aizawa? Aizawa-chan, Azui asked. She deduced it quickly. Faster than I expected. Only Kaken knew my name used to be Midoriya. Shuji-kun and Mineta-kun looked confused. So I decided to just lay it out for them. I am, but I used to be a Midoriya, so they're after you. Shuji asked, sounding terrified for his classmate Earthquake Zone Katsuki POV. Why the hell were they after the shitty nerd? His quirk. Of course the shitty villains would be after him. But wait, how did they find out? It seems as though they don't know the fact that is Aizawa's kid. Boy, I want to see their faces when they lose their quirk after touching him. I got stuck with shitty hair in some shitty building with shitty weak villains that can't even stand a chance against my mediocre explosion. Die! These demon villains are annoying. First Deku's parents, and now they want him. Bakugo, we have to hurry back to the others, Shitty Hair told me, as though I didn't already figure that out. Calm the hack down. If they're up against these guys, then they'll be fine. I was thinking too much and stress had gotten the best of me. Thinking about the shitty nerd, the shitty promise, and now this shitty situation. Wow, Bakugo, I didn't think you could be this level-headed, Shitty Hair said, pissing me. Oh, I'm always level-headed, din Shitty Hair. Can't they tell DMN it? Anyway, let's hurry back. I think they've gotten us mixed up. I'd like to see their faces when they find out there's no Midoriya in our class. I let out an even bigger scowl on my face. Didn't they see how Deku was reacting? They're spot on dumb, but how? They find out I'm not sure. But they know who their target is but not the whole info. What are you? Saying, Midoriya parents were murdered. He changed his name after he was officially declared an orphan. He was adopted, only to find out years later that he was adopted by his own biological father, and now it seems the same bitch wants him. I let an evil smirk spread across my face. I really want to see their faces when they see they can't use him. Dude, you lost me, the shitty. Thereafter Deku, I whad and his eyes went wide. Back at the shipwreck zone. Body POV Izuku and Co. was surrounded by water-based villains. They told each other about their quirks. And with the revelation that they were after Izuku Azui, Tsuchan as she wanted them to call her, said that it would be best that they didn't get a glimpse of him. Otherwise they may start a full-on attack for him. Izuku was glad that he ended up with some of his mutant classmates, though he didn't know what Mineta was. He didn't have a timer, but his purple hair, whatever they were, didn't stick to him. In fact, it repelled him like it did for its creator. They were coming up with a plan. A villain attacked them, instantly cutting the ship in half. Began sinking, and so Izuku thought it up quickly. Tsuchan still headstrong on not revealing Izuku, and so Shuji just hid him in his arms and jumped of the boat. In order to do what needed to be done, Izuku focused all the power of One for All in one hand and blasted at 100%, shooting him and Shuji up. The taller boy losing his breath from the sudden force as a shock wave created a space in the water, signaling Tsuchan to jump to them with Mineta in her arms. She wrapped her tongue around the two, pulling them in. The purple head boy, even though scared for his life, even though he was scared he may not see another day, was more envious of his classmates, envious for how brave they were, even though they were as scared as him. Let out all his fury, tossing the purple orbs on his head down to the water, actively sticking to the villains as the water came back and dragging the villains together, successfully capturing them and escaping in one swell swoop. Izuku POV, that was scary. We barely made it out alive. Luckily I activated Razor Extend at the same time so my hand isn't broken. That was to close. If they had kept reserve villains in the water, then we were as good. Aizawa-chan, stop it, it's scary, Tsu-chan said, bringing me back reality. Aizawa, sorry, but how many quirks do you have? Shuji asked. I'll have to explain later, I said sheepishly. As we were walking up to the shore, we're greeted with the scene of Erasure head fighting of numerous villains. I watched as the blue-haired villain getting ready to attack. He was counting down. I didn't have to figure out what he was counting, I already knew. Dad's time limit. I could. His eyes were already bloodshot from overuse. Erasure head charged at the villain. The villain swung a punch that the hero blocked successfully as the hero shot an elbow to the villain only to have it caught. You're really cool. Erasure head, the man acknowledged. Your quirk seems like really powerful quirk, but there's a certain time when your hair falls, signaling your quirk is deactivated. I watched in horror as Dad's elbow began to crumble away. But with no one to see, you're basically quirkless. Other villains took the chance and attacked Dad. He was lucky enough to keep them back, but a blue beast loomed over behind him. What happened next would haunt me. The monster struck him down and twisted his elbow to an unnatural angle. We also got a present for All Might, but he seems to not be around. I guess we'll destroy some of his little pride. I watched the man reach back. Thought we were quiet. The warp gate appeared and the man's hand came for Tsuchan. I erased his quirk quickly. Nothing happened to Tsuchan. The man let out a tsh and turned to my dad. His hair was down and a heat-eating grin plastered on his face. A powerful punch came from Shuji, smacking the villain away. He grabbed us all and jumped out the water. I bet you didn't plan on my brat having an erasure-based quirk, now did you? Aizawa-sensei taunted. No man. Him, I took into consideration and paralyzed the beast, but it was taking all my willpower. But also paralyzed the warp gate, but him and the monster were too strong. Shuji, take my Netetsu-chan and my dad and get out of here. I told him, what about you? He asked. I'm going to hold. These guys back till backup gets here. I activated one for all, full cowling and stood my ground. The blue-haired villain was getting up. What's going on? This isn't supposed to happen, this is cheating. Nomu, why aren't you listening? He mumbled. Unlike Dad, I don't have a time limit, but keeping my eyes open is painful at the same time suppressing two powerful mutants. I got Dad out from under the beast and gave him to Shuji. The three ran as I held back the villains. Helped strengthen suppress, easing its drawback. The villain charged at me. It seemed as though they only planned on attacking and kidnapping. They had no information on what quirks we have. What is with your quirk? You're just like erasure head. You villains won't be able to use. Your quirks won't work against me. Who exactly are you? The villain began scratching his neck in annoyance. What do you mean no one will be able to use their quirks? What are you? I snickered and gave the man an eating grin. One almost identical to Dad's. I'm the son of erasure head. The villain stood there a few seconds. The silence was eerie. I guess we won't be able to use you now. Nobody. POV. Shigaraki Tamura charged at Izuku. They won't be able to use him now. With this news, his MSTR would be disappointed. Izuku wasn't fast enough to get away from the villain. His eyes began to become bloodshot and Shigaraki managed to hold him down by his neck, using only 4 fingers. It was already Izuku's win, but the villain didn't know it. Izuku lost control of the 2 mutant types and was now in grave danger. Even though the one holding him down would be able to use his quirk. The doors to the facility then burst open, being destroyed in the process. Do not fear, for I am here. The booming voice All Might, giving everyone a sense of safety. Izuku couldn't help but tear up. They were saved. All Might was furious. His co-workers were injured and his students were in danger. He was first to arrive and see what the villains had done. He scanned the area and then saw his successor, held down by the leader of the villains. In an instant he was down there, punching each villain, and stood his way and rescuing the boy. By getting the villain away from him, he couldn't touch the young hero, otherwise the jig would be up and the chances of their survival would be a 0. It seems we didn't have much information, but we can make do by destroying the symbol of peace, Shigaraki Tamura said. The time it would take for the man to realize his quirk was being suppressed was about 5 minutes. Izuku prayed All Might would be able to defeat these villains before time was up. For both him and time of suppression. Meet the symbol of despair. All Might, the villain said with a cackling laughter, and the Nomu clashed with All Might. Izuku tried not be blown back by the force of their punches. Dread filled the pits of his stomach as he noticed that the beast was taking all of the number 1 hero's punches. He has shock absorption and high regeneration quirks. He's the ultimate human sandbag, Shigaraki exclaimed with a manic. Izuku heard footsteps, and when he turned he saw Todoroki, Bakugo and Kirishima. What the heck is going on? Wow, what the hell is that thing? The red-haired shouted. Izuku knew they needed to get out of there so All Might could go all out, but he was worried that All Might's true form would be revealed. All Might got the beast into German suplex, is this right? Slamming the beast into the ground only to have the warp gate open a portal and save it. Izuku. POV. Before anything else could happen, Bakugo moved and attacked Kurogiri's weak point. You move, I'll blow you up, he said with a death glare. And now, why the F were you FB? After Deku, he let out a torrent of curses. This isn't fair, Shigaraki mumbled. The beast began to dig into All Might's wound. I paralyzed it. My head began to hurt more, the dryness of my eyes burned. Acting quickly, Todoroki freezes the monster. Its arms break off and All Might is able to free himself. I released the beast before I'm able to pass out. This isn't good, we need to get back now. They're cheating. Nomu, get our gate back. All Might injury seemed to have worsened. Thanks to the monster. I could see him holding in a cough. We watched in horror as the beast began to regenerate. The beast was heading to Kaken. I didn't want to see another person close to me get killed. Even though he may not know it, but I've always seen him as my friend. Activate all quirks, one for all, suppress, erasure extend and the new one collapse. The capturing. Gear tangled up the beast with speed that matched it. I paralyzed the beast, my skin gray and hardened, hair glowing green and eyes glowing green. The beast began to tremble and scream. As my bladed scarf began to cut into the beast. Everyone was shocked, but I had overused. Suppress and black dots began to fill my vision, and just like that I was out. Todoroki POV Aizawa managed to buy All Might time and at the same time injuring the monster. He had managed to save Bakugo, giving the symbol of peace to begin the head-on fight with the monster. Aizawa passed out due to quirk overuse. That is what Bakugo said and we ran from the clash between the symbols. The time, Aizawa had kept mumbling still half-conscious. The time is up. He was completely out. That's when I realized he was probably talking about the villain. I heard of Aizawa's quirk and with the beast that was as strong as All Might, he was sure to be weakened after the fight. It left a chance for the villain to strike down All Might himself. Luckily it was Kirishima that was carrying Aizawa. I ran back to the fight just in time to see All Might punch the beast sending it away and out the facility and into hopefully outer. I could careless about what the villain was saying but he seemed annoyed and irritated. So I listened. Midoriya can't be used, Nomu was defeated, the heroes are the worst, they cheated. He began rambling. The intensity he was giving of was bone-chilling and he charged at All Might who seemed weakened. On instinct I created an ice wall between him and the villain. And then the doors to the facility bursted open once more. The teachers have finally returned. And I heard Ida shout out for the whole of USJ to hear. We were finally saved. While basking in the moment I didn't realize that the villain had escaped with the warp gate. I decided to go All Might but Cementos Sensei blocked my way saying all students are to return to the plaza. Body POV everyone was accounted for, no major injuries except for one student who was out. Thanks to overuse of quirk. 13 and erasure had sued some major injuries but both were now out of danger. The heroes were most likely the students who had fought for their lives. And in the process help remove some villains from the streets by knocking them out and capturing the villains that attacked them. Many would say that the future looked bright. The new generation of heroes from UA were not only just strong, but bright and have heroic hearts. Though some may have other reasons and not so good motives, **Mineta**, but still pulled through by getting each other fired up. Izuku Aizawa would be receiving some good news once he wakes up, but he doesn't know how long that good news will last. Izuku woke up, feeling terrible. He was in what looked like a hospital room. The scribbling of pen on a clipboard came and he used all his willpower to sit up. On the bed beside him he saw a mummy with long, raven black hair. "Dad, is that you?" Izuku asked with a deadpan tone. "Who do you think it is, brat?" He retorted sounding annoyed. "Oh, you both are up," Recovery Girl said walking over. "How do you both feel?" She asked already what their answer would be. "Like I got hit by a bus, father and son," said in unison. Recovery hummed and looked at the two. The response was expected. "Figured as much," she said and looked down to her clipboard. "I have good news and bad news for you both," she said. Izuku held his breath. He dreaded what she would say. "The bad news is that Aizawa-kun and you will have permanent damage with your eyes. You won't see as far as you used to." I could live with that. Izuku felt a bit guilty. His dad was now like this because the villains were after him. The good news is that Izuku's quirk suppress has gotten stronger. The chances of him developing new quirks have now dropped to a 10% chance. Izuku looked and the healing hero with wide eyes. The chances of developing new quirks have dropped. Wanted to scream out his relief and excitement only to have it drowned out by some else. "Hell yeah!" Aizawa shouted and the top his lungs with a cast hand raised high as he stood on the bed uncharacteristically. Izuku stared at his father with wide eyes and began to laugh uncontrollably. He didn't know if he had ever laughed this much in his entire life. Recovery girl gave a smile and whacked Erasure head on the head. Aizawa POV 10% is good enough for me. My problem child is out of danger for now. The old lady explained that when he was using all quirks together, one for all greatly helped strengthen suppress. I guess I have to thank All Might for this. The old lady said that his quirk slightly evolved a bit. People's quirk can still be suppressed if they make physical contact with him, but now he can mentally undo his quirk. Can choose who would and not be acted while touching or not touching him. His other quirks had also strengthened considerably, and so now he has 4 strong quirks. But he still couldn't figure out how to use 2 of them. Well, not yet. Time skip Izuku POV. I was walking to school. That morning Dad wasn't around. He should be resting, but Nizu found out he was good enough to go school. I also wanted to sleep in a bit more, but then Ida would lecture me. Maybe I could ask Uraraka to let me sleep on her lap. What am I thinking? I shouted, slamming my head into a brick wall. I made a spider web of cracks on the brick wall and sighed, not noticing the bloody waterfall that was running down my head. I should really get some sleep, thinking about the villain attack and then Dad and then why we were still going to school. Now it's making me think of things I muttered to myself until I heard 2 familiar voices, Deku/Aizawa and Uraraka called. I turned to them and they screamed, "Yuahai-ha!" I flinched, frightened and confused. "You need help," they both shouted. Uraraka found an old shopping cart, put me in using 0 gravity. I had told them about my quirk and I guess they took this their advantage. I was still wondering about what they were scared and worried about. Respiro burst. Ida shouted as I clutched onto Uraraka for my life as we headed for Ua. Kaken was in our way and got scooped up. He looked at me with a shocked expression, only to have replaced with a thrilled expression as we went at Ida's high speed. A blur of blue, brown, blonde and green was seen through the school. We passed our class and all the way to recovery. Girls, recovery girl Deku got hit in the head, Uraraka cried out. I touched my forehead and saw my fingers were BLD red. I looked into a mirror and saw my whole face covered in BLD. I screamed in shock of seeing such horror and understood my friends. Though Kaken was trying to get Ida to do the cart ride again. Deku, who did this to you? Uraraka asked, sounding worried and concerned. She looked so cute and plump, I feel like just holding her. Dai DKU. I shouted and punched myself. What's up with his thoughts? I hid away my face and looked away. My face still red with BLD but with a blush beneath. I see the problem, recovery girl said with a smile. Ida came over and turned me around. Aizawa-kun, why did you hit yourself? He asked, sounding worried. I didn't know how to explain, I just felt like curling up into a ball. It's okay, Sonny. Uraraka-san, why don't you head to class first? Recovery girl told her. She hesitated at first but left. Kaken was already gone. Ida still wanting an answer. Izuku just needs a bit of self-awareness and he'll be fine. I've seen this case countless of times in my life. Is it curable? Ida asked, sounding, oh dear boys, everyone goes through this. Your teacher did. His reaction was just like his son's, though he literally rammed his head through a glass window. What did you bang your head against? A brick wall, I replied in a monotone voice. Why would you do such a thing? Ida said with his karate chops. His in denial, recovery girl said, patching me up. While giggling, what are you denying? Ida asked. Oh, love this, how youthful. My baby has a crush, Midnight said, appearing beside me, hugging me tight in her arms. Kid, come to ask for something and overheard everything. She won't let me live this down, auntie. You're killing me, I told her. Then I processed what she had just told me. CC crush. Shouted, my face bright red again without the B. I don't have one, I shouted and began fidgeting and mumbling. I see now, I will help you on your self-awareness, Ida said, patting my shoulder. The determination in his eyes scared me. What he would do, however, would scare me even more. Bonus Aizawa's crush. It was just like any other day for Aizawa. He was walking to school when he saw Inko and Namuri walking together. The two walked up to him who was with Hisashi and Tensei. Inko was adorable and petite. Her bright green eyes looked as though they could unravel every secret he had and turn him into a puddle of nothing. "Good morning, Aizawa," she said with a smile and walked past him, leaving him. And Hisashi and Tensei, "Yo Shoyuda," his friend called, but no response came. The two friends looked at their raven-haired friend. Aizawa's mind was a blank slate. He walked towards the convenience store next to him. Inko's smile showed itself to him and crash. Half his body was rammed through the glass window and the two friends rushed him to the hospital. Going at full speed, the other becoming a human siren. Screaming together for their friend No. Body POV. Everything was great, but Izuku had a bandage wrapped around his head. He had come to class late due to the fact his dad was explaining something to class and looked up to him when he entered. All Ida had told him was that he needed self-awareness. He went through the same thing. "Don't worry about it, I rammed half my body through a convenience store window when I was your age," he said, giving his son a thumbs up. Izuku just slumped and the class sweat dropped. "Sensei, why did you ram half your body through the window of a convenience store?" Thian asked, a pointer on her chin. "I'd tell you if I wanted to," he said, and watched Izuku get into his desk. "I have an announcement to make." The class quietened down and braved for the information they would receive. "A week from now will be the sports festival, so be sure to prepare yourselves." Everyone cheered and then was silenced by Aizawa. "What? Are we having it right after the villain attack?" Kirishima asked, sounding a bit concerned. "It's to show villains we're not afraid to show them we're moving forward and not letting their antics get to us. So get ready for the sports festival and remember to go plus ultra." Aizawa's class cheered in excitement as he let a smile grace his lips, hidden beneath the bandages. He had gained 19 more kids after the villain incident. Even though he had been teaching for some years, this class of rowdy teenagers was probably by far his favorite. Time skip brought to you by mummified Aizawa. Everyone was getting ready for the next class. Izuku was packed and ready and decided to wait for his friends outside the classroom. The moment he opened the door, he was trapped by numerous pairs of eyes. "What the F is going on here?" Bakugo shouted. Walking out, scoping out the competition, a purple-haired boy said, walking up. Izuku couldn't get a proper look at who spoke, but his voice sounded familiar. "Well, too bad, 'cause I'm gonna be number 1 inch," Bakugo said, glaring. "Are everyone in the hero course but holes?" the boy asked, clearly insulting. "Boo, not everyone," Izuku said, squeezing through to see the purple-haired boy. "Oh, Toshi," Izuku greeted with a smile at the purple-haired boy. "Aizu, I didn't know you were in this class." "I didn't know you came here," Izuku said, sounding excited. "Aizawa, and do you know this person?" Ida said with his robotic hand movements. "He's my cousin." Izuku remembered how shocking it was to find out Aizawa as an erasure head sensei. There's no way that guy could have a kid. I bet he got in through his father then. "I am a recommended student, but I didn't use any other means to get in here. I swear," Izuku said out loud to let them all know he heard them. "Wait, your cousin," Uraraka shouted, pushing through. "True," she said. "I can see the resemblance through the eye bags." Izuku and his cousin Shinso Hitoshi sweat dropped at her statement. Ida saw an opportunity to help his green-haired friend. "Shinso-kun, may I have a word with you?" Ida knew nothing about love, but from what his brother told him, it was something amazing. His brother had met a lovely girl and had been waiting eagerly to meet the woman that might become his future-in-law. To help his friend, he decided to find help. He couldn't ask Uraraka because it would give everything away. He couldn't ask any of his classmates. They would end up teasing the two, and that would end badly for the two. So when Aizawa-kun's cousin presented himself to Class 1A, it was the perfect opportunity to gain help. "Shinsun, may I have a word with you?" He didn't wait for a reply. He took the sleep-deprived, purple-haired boy, turned him around by his shoulders and used his quirk to speed away, leaving a crowd of confused students and a dreadful feeling in the pits of Izuku's stomach. Completely clueless Achiko beside him. "Shinsu-kun, I'd like your help." "Would Like you to help me help Aizawa. Why would you want my help? Shinso asked, not sure on how to handle this situation. Ida was bowing at a perfect 90-degree angle. What is wrong with Izuku anyway? He has been inflicted with something I am yet to experience, Ida said, clenching his fist to his chest. And what is that? Shinso asked sarcastically. Izuku is in love and is in denial and is making himself his own punching bag so he wouldn't accept the fact that he has feelings for his crush. A grin similar to erasure head spread across his face. Needed a camera for this. He gave his hand to Ida for a shake. Ida took it believing he would. True, he would help. But what did he know about having crushes and being in love? This was the perfect opportunity to gain embarrassing footage, pictures, and more to use as blackmail against his cousin. He wanted to be hero, but what harm can childish blackmail do? I'll help you, but since we know nothing about love, let's wing it and hope for the best. Ida's glasses seemed to sparkle in delight, and Shinso wondered if he would pass out from laughing. Ida and Shinso's plan was put into motion. Trail 1. Uncomfortable space. Ida acted as though nothing was going on. He sat next to Uraraka, and though seeming like he didn't mean to but actually meant to with all his heart, made her move closer to Izuku. Izuku tried to move and give her space, but there was no more because Shinso took it all. He scooted a bit, pushing Izuku in. Uraraka. Their thighs touched and their shoulders touched. Ida began talking to Shinso. Shinso replied in turn, both pushing the two in the middle against each other. Izuku knew he was really close to Uraraka. He knew if he turned his face would be really close to Uraraka. Achiko knew the same. The two on both their sides seemed to be entranced in their own conversation. They thought about starting a conversation with each and turned at the same. Both facing each. Izuku was staring into bright brown eyes as Achiko stared in deep green. Both mesmerized by each other. Then reality hit them like a raging bull on steroids. Izuku has stopped working. He slammed his head into the table, breaking it in half, shouting, "Smash without one for all." He knocked himself out. Achiko has stopped working. She hit her face and began to drift away from the earth. Ida ran after her and Shinso dragged Izuku. Recovery girl. Yar. Recovery sighed and patches him up for the second time of the Trail 2. Lap pillow. Achiko was worried about Izuku because he had smashed his head into the lunch table. He was back out again, and this time he was sleeping under a tree. During the time she had been getting to know Shinso, he had things in common with Izuku, which wasn't very surprising. Talking with was fun, she had thought. She was unknowingly brought to the sleeping Izuku under the tree. She smiles at how peaceful he looked. Why don't you go over there and lay his head on your lap? Shinso suggested, as though the idea had just popped up in his head. In truth, this was their plan. Ida nodded. Ida, wouldn't you say that that was improper? Achiko said with pleading eyes. I would say that, but as a friend of Izuku, and I've seen he had been looking stressful ever since the villain attack. Well, more stressful than usual. There was a fact that laying on someone's lap could relieve stress. He was spot on with his acting. Achiko willed herself over there and sat beside Izuku, gently placing his head on her lap. It looked peaceful. They had a free PRD, and so no one would bother looking for them. The culprits had disappeared without warning. Achiko ran fingers through his hair. His unruly hair, soft and curly. The peacefulness around them made her drift off to sleep as well. Couple of teachers walked by. One clad in black and another with blonde, and his hair, like bunny ears, almost had a heart attack. They took pictures from every angle. Two more came, along with two students, Ashido and Siro. They instantly took pictures. Siro taped present mix, mouth shut so not to disturb the sleeping beauties. Midnight squealed at how youthful the scene was. Izuku began to stir awake, and they were gone faster than All Might could say smash. Izuku almost jumped but restrained himself as he would wake up Achiko. Up close he saw the bags under her eyes. She had stress built up too, he thought. His hand moved involuntarily and brushed a couple strands of hair away from her face. She looked appealing in her sleep. She woke up. Reality hit Izuku like a bullet train without emergency brakes. He used one for all on himself and sent himself crashing through a wall. Tick mark formed on Recovery Girl's head. She healed him, then threw him out, yelling, "If you break yourself again, I'm not healing you," and she slammed the door shut. Trail 3. Walking her home. Ida had gone home early, saying he needed to prepare for the sports festival. Shinso was also running home when he saw the two. "You should walk Uraraka-san home. The villains might still be keeping an eye on you guys." This made both Uraraka and Izuku tense up. Shinso knew the right words to put Izuku into gear and ran away, heading home. Or so they thought. Shinso joined Ida at their hiding. But Ida watched carefully as Shinso recorded everything. Thank you, Deku. Achiko decided to start a conversation. "For what?" Izuku asked, somewhat confused. "For doing this, for walking me home," she said. She managed to compose herself. "It's nothing really I wanted to do it." Izuku would regret his words later when he realizes what he said. They start small talk on the They found they had the same interest in many things. He told her the reason why he wanted to be a hero, and in turn she told him hers. "I mostly want to help my parents, but that's not my only reason. The first time I saw a hero, I was mesmerized. Not by the hero but by the smiles on people's faces. Knowing that there's someone out there to protect them. My parents always made me smile like that, so I smiled for them. They work hard every day for me and I just want to see them smile. I want to see everyone with a happy smile on their face." Reality had finally hit Izuku hard as one punch. Sorry, wrong universe. Hit as hard as All Might's Detroit smash. But this time he accepted the impact without hitting back and smiled at the passionate girl in front of him. Achiko smiled in turn and waved him goodbye as she ran home. Izuku had finally accepted he was in love with Uraraka Achiko. With a smile on his face and a whole lot of stress away his chest, he walked home happily, only to turn tomato red remembering that he said he wanted to walk her home. Meanwhile, Uraraka is squealing in her bedroom remembering that he said that he wanted to walk her home. In a nearby bush, a certain Blue Neat and a Purple Neat shook hands for their newfound friendship and accomplishment. The one with purple hair was now glad he had blackmailing material for his cousin. He walked away with a erasure head grin. Izuku POV. We sat in allocated rooms waiting for the first game to begin. With Ida and Uraraka. Having accepted I was in love with her lifted a whole lot of my chest. For some reason, after realizing she seemed to be getting more appealing by the day. She was the main reason why I smile these days. For some reason, every time I look at Ida, he has this proud look. As I was busy chatting and getting ready for the first round, I heard my name being called. I turned and saw Todoroki. It left me in shock somehow. The guy who barely talks to anyone came to me. Looking at how things are, I can say that we both may be equal in strength. This left me and some others in shock. Todoroki was saying I was on equal footing with him? It may think that in actual truth is stronger. I still need to learn how to control some of my quirks. Karishma has been helping with Razor Extend. We spared with each other and it seemed our drawbacks were the same. He said I had been going at 100% all this time, that's why I had been cracking. After that tip I learned it was like OFA. I need to cut down on the power. Karishma could be a good teacher. I don't think so, Todoroki. I told him I may have an advantage with my DMNT quirk, but the others I'm still having a hard time on using. Even so, I'm here to say that I'll beat you. This left us all in shock. There's something about you that made the villains want you, and All Might has his eyes on you. This caught everyone's attention. I was mildly aware of Kaken making a tc sound. All I want to say is that I will beat you, and with that Todoroki turned his back. I looked down with my hair shadowing my eyes. Todoroki, I don't know what you're thinking when you say you want to beat me. I admit you're better than me in many ways, but I won't let that hold me back. I'm going to give it my all just like everybody else. Unconsciously activated suppress. My hair stood on end and my capturing gear floated up in the air. I clenched my fist and pointed at him. Everyone is giving it all, so am too. I'm not going to fall behind. If you say you're going to beat me, then I'll do everything I can to beat you, Uraraka POVs. I was watching Deku, I couldn't help my heart flutter a bit. He's giving his all. I'll also do the same. To be like Deku, to be a hero like Deku. Everyone is training to be heroes. Deku working harder than everyone. He may not know it, but I already consider him a hero. My hero. I didn't realize a slight blush on my cheeks. I resolved myself. I will get to the finals with Deku. How that will happen I'll leave to my luck. No body POV. Students start making your way out midnight. Called. Everyone started making their way out. The first thing they noticed is present Mike was one of the commentators. Class 1A heard a familiar voice beside the man. Their homeroom teacher. Izuku wondered how they had dragged his father up there. He also wondered why they gave the megaphone to an even louder megaphone. Why oh everybody? Present Mike shouted, getting hyped in his seat. He twirled with a smile, super hyped to see the competition. As he did, Erasure head ducked and dodged his wild friend's swings. You don't need me here, do you? Erasure head shouted but was ignored and drowned out by the louder man. The first round is an obstacle course. Let's see how they fend off against the robots from the entrance. Exam, everyone was OA. Todoroki going in full power. He sent a barrage of ice, massive 0-point robot, freezing it and running between its legs. The others tried to follow, but he warned them, saying they'll fall apart, and so it did. People began to panic, saying people could die, saying the person underneath was already dead. There were 2 people under those robots. They stood in awe as someone emerged from the wreckage, like I die. Kirishima shouted as he broke through. Todoroki, that BSC, if it wasn't me someone could have died, he said, skin hardened. Kirishima Ijiro. Present Mike shouted out his name and gave a small description of who is and his quirk, DM in class ABS. Another student rose from the wreckage. His skin was metal. His aura the same as Kirishima. If it wasn't me someone could have died, he said, Tetsu. Tetsu, Present Mike shouted, giving the same intro as Kirishima. Our quirks are basically the same. I already have a hard time standing out, Kirishima shouted as sparkling tears escaped his eyes. It seems the class that had an experience with the villains are not wasting any time. Look at them go. Izuku was not wasting any time. He was lucky to get a petition for his capture gear. It always had it with him. It was like a part of him. He ran and dodged robots, using OFA full cowling to dodge quickly, using razor extend to help others that were about to be crushed. It went over the 0-point robot, like Bakugu, Tokoyami, and Siro. He used his capturing gear. Present Mike was shouting intros and Izuku was really wondering why they him the mic when his already won. Would you look at that, we have a green Erasure head in the bunch. Erasure head, what are you teaching your class? I didn't teach them anything, they got themselves fired up on their own, he stated. Oh, here we have the next part of the obstacle course. The students looked in awe and wonder, and some faces were deadpan, saying when did they have the time to build this? It was the fall. Or as Present Mike shouted out. Tsuchan wasted no time in gawking and jumped, followed by others. The first green-haired had gone first and next came another. It was as though the person had no fear of heights. And here we have Aizawa. Presence Mike shouted, his lean, his fast, he'll take your quirks away or paralyze you, and was forced to jump of high-story buildings for training. We have the son of Erasure head, the very man sitting beside me. Oi, stop broadcasting me and my kid. Erasure head shouted but was ignored. In the crowd of dumbstruck students came a gleeful laughter. A girl with pink hair and golden goggles started introducing herself and her babies, her inventions, and was OA, causing others to start following. Todoroki was in the lead, Bakugu close behind, using his explosions to keep him airborne, and Izuku using his capturing gear to swing himself up and over like a freaking Spider-Man. People in the crowd stared in awe. They were getting excited. They wanted the son of the number 2 hero to be their sidekick. They were saying they would have to fight over him to get him. And finally came the last part of the obstacle race. This was going to be hard. People were already getting close, and now Izuku was with everyone. Bakugo was still airborne and reached Todoroki in no time. The two began to fight over being first. Bakugo shouting about declaring war to the wrong person, and Todoroki was just trying to stay in the lead. All of a sudden there was an explosion from behind. The brightness was blinding, and from the smoke came Izuku. His skin was hardened and gray. The crowd cheered as Izuku came blasting forward. Aizawa is in hot pursuit. No, actually he's taken the lead. Present Mike shouted. Izuku didn't think this through enough. He had dug up some of the mines and jumped on it. His hardened skin protected him, and the blast sent Sky rocketing to the front. The two below him noticed and began using quirks to chase after him. He was losing speed and altitude, and he knew that in a matter of seconds, while the two still had their quirks, they would run past him. And so he did it. He suppressed their quirks. The two in the lead lost their quirks and stumbled as Izuku fell. Beside them, Razor Extend still active. All had fallen on mines. Boom, the second largest explosion came, sending Todoroki and Bakugo flying back while sending Izuku forward. Out and away from the obstacle course he ran at full speed. One for all activated and using every bit of strength to run, and he was the first to make it. The sounds of explosion and ice behind him was drowned by the cheering of the spectators, and in first place we have that man, Aizawa Izuku. The crowd cheered, and Izuku wiped away a tear, knowing he did good. Erasure head, how you feeling? Feeling like a proud dad, ain't ya? I'm questioning why I'm up here. Izuku's sweat dropped. Bonus. Shinso took a sip out his very expensive cup of It was from one of the most classiest cafes in town. A single cup cost 5 times the average cup of koi. He held his phone in one hand and boastingly took another sip of his His poor cousin sat before him, his face hidden by his shadows that were cast by his hair. The taller purple-haired smiled and continued to drink his My money, Izu groaned. Why do you have videos of me and Uraraka? That's our secret, Shinso replied. He threatened he would give these videos to a pink-skinned and haired classmate of his if he didn't listen. Izuku feared the pink one. The pink one would tease non-stop. If added with green one who spoke her mind by habit, then it would be really uncomfortable when facing the friend he has a crush on. But the pink one would tease so much. Izuku was sure he would die from embarrassment. Him and his crush would surely die. And so he listened to his horrid cousin's every request, joined by his father, who was sitting by the said cousin drinking an extra large cup of the delicious I hate you both, Izuku told them as they gave that horrid grin. Izuku POV. The second round was about to begin. Midnight stood on stage with an extremely revealing outfit. Some students' sweat dropped as others looked away, and the most perverted ones had nosebleeds. I looked around and noticed that all Class A had made it. I even saw Hitoshi. He had his own capture gear. I wad, remembering the hell we went through. We both trained together with Dad, but I didn't know he was signing up for UA. Should have asked him if he wanted a recommendation, but Dad said he could only recommend. Once again remembering my once passive eject of my quirk, Midnight began explaining the next game. She said she knew what it was and decided to surprise us by showing us through a spinning wheel on the screen. It landed on the cavalry battle. We had make teams and then fight for steel headbands that had points on them. Of course, the person with highest points is the person who came first in the obstacle race, and my baby Izuku gets. I face-palmed at my aunt's nickname for me. True, she was like a mother to me after I lost my mom, but still, seriously, I'm not a baby. 1,000,000 points. I felt like dying. I could sense everyone's evil auras as they stared at me. This will make it even harder for me to form a team. When they gave us time to form teams, I tried asking Ida. He declined and went to join Todoroki's team. I wasn't mad, I understood him. I asked Hitoshi, though I didn't want to because he made use all my money. Get him back with Dad. He declined. He said it would be best if learns to make friends with other people. I told him not to brainwash anyone, well, his teammates. I was starting to lose hope, when suddenly an angel came to save me. Deku, let's make a team. I fell to my knees and praised every kami, god, deity that I could think of, wearing my tears as sacrifice. I thought we could make a team, could we? Uraraka asked. I'd actually love that, thank you Uraraka, you made my day. I let my motor mouth run without realizing what I was saying. I went bright red as. Did Uraraka? Hey you too, I'd like to join your team. I saw a girl with pink bubblegum hair. Had bright yellow eyes and a bright smile. I want to show my babies to the world and to all the big companies that came here today. She told us, getting up to close and personal. We got to know each other and told each other about our quirks. I managed to find one more team member and was really glad he joined us. This was how we would go. Tokoyami-kun would be the rider. This being because he could go on both defense and offense. With one for all, I would be the front horse, and with suppress I can easily suppress those coming after us. Hatsum-san's gear and Uraraka-san's zero gravity, it would make it easier for me to move around. The passive eject of my quirk wouldn't be able to help me with my teammates holding on to me. So it was only one for all and suppress. My maximum number of people was 8 at the moment. We got ready and then Midnight shouted go. No body POV, and the second game starts. Present Mike shouted, there are some interesting teams down there, erase your head. Commented the teams were OA. Since Tokoyami was the rider, Izuku's team was Team Tokoyami. With one for all they managed to dodge those that came after the million points. Izuku constantly kept suppress active, which was beginning to take its toll. His eyes were becoming BLD shot. Team Mineta came after them. But it was only Shuji. He paralyzed him, but then tongue and purple ball came flying out. Mineta and Azui were hidden on Shuji's back. The support gear, they managed to get away by flying up into the air. They couldn't go up because Uraraka had stepped on one of the purple orbs, and so Izuku aided by jumping up in the air. Bakugo came flying. Izuku suppressed his quirk just as Dark Shadow punches him back too. His team managed to catch him. Izuku knew Bakugo was pissed. They kept evading other teams. Izuku saw Team Shinso. He was glad Shinso didn't brainwash his teammates. Time was counting down, and now Team Tokoyami was faced with a troublesome lot, and at the moment was dumbstruck at what they were staring at. Izuku had to at least see the physical part of someone to suppress them. Someone like Hagakure, he couldn't see her, and so he couldn't suppress her. Not erase her quirk or paralyze her. Ida was covered with some sort of camouflage material that seemed to blending in with the surroundings. The things Yaoyorozu could create terrified him. He suppressed the other three's quirks, but in an instant they were behind them. Bakugo shouting as he blew himself towards them. Izuku erased his quirk as well. Both opposing teams had seriously underestimated Team Tokoyami. As Todoroki reached 4 million point headband, he didn't plan on Tokoyami punching him, and as Bakugo was reaching for the headband from the back, he didn't expect to be punched by Dark Shadow again, sending him back to his team. And time's up. Midnight shouted and the crowd cheers. That was awesome. Present Mike shouted, Erasure, what do make of this fight? They severely underestimated their opponents. Many of them didn't try to think ahead, and some just focused on only one member of each team. If they had considered all members of a team to be one, instead of being separate and work together with their own team, then many of them would have succeeded. And there you have Eraserhead's analysis of what just happened. Now, to reveal the teams that will be heading to the next round, yeah. First we have that team that I was rooting for. Oi! Team Tokoyami. Izuku, Hatsum, and Uraraka cheered and threw Tokoyami into the air, cheering and laughing together. Next we have Team Bakugo. Crowd cheered, but the explosive blonde was looking with murderous intent at Izuku and Tokoyami. Then Team Todoroki. Todoroki looked down at his hands. He realized his mistake. He was only thinking that Aizawa Izuku would have been the main obstacle. What he didn't realize that Tokoyami would also be a strong opponent. He was so focused on becoming a hero and loathing his father that he didn't realize that there are others that could as equally as strong as him. He remembered the first he met the green-haired boy. It was some type of celebration that his father dragged him to. He underestimated him back then and no regrets it. And lastly we have Team Shinsu. Izuku looked over to the team and saw Ojiro shaking hands with Shinso. He let out a breath of relief. His seemingly anti-social cousin managed to work with his team without controlling them. After forming a friendship with Ida, he wondered what some of the others. But to his surprise, the others were sort of interesting characters. And not assholes like Bakugo. It was now time for lunch, and also after that would be the recreational games that everyone could participate in. This gave the ones who made it to the next round time to get ready. Bonus how Todoroki met Izuku. Todoroki was dragged to some event by his father. He didn't want to go, but his sister insisted so that they wouldn't make their father mad. There were some other kids his age around but didn't bother socializing. He found it a waste of time. Izuku had went around asking people about their quirks, and he was happy that some of them answered his questions. The heroes wondered whose kid he was, and those who knew Erasure had personally had their jaws dropped when they figured out. Izuku saw a dual-colored haired boy and decided to go talk to him. Hey there, Izuku greeted. Todoroki was unsure to make of his company. To him the boy looked scrawny and weak compared to him, with a ridiculous long scarf around his neck. So whose kid are you? Izuku regretted his words. Todoroki's grew into a scowl that sent shivers down his Izuku's spine. Why do you want to know? Todoroki growled. He unconsciously activated his quirk and Izuku began to get cold. Shudo, what did I tell about making friends? Booming voice came and both boys turned to endeavor. Izuku grew pale. Todoroki snapped and said, "You don't have to tell me, old man." He growled. Endeavor then dragged him away from prying eyes, where he would slap some sense into him. When they were out of sight, Endeavor raised a flaming hand and his son braced for impact, closing his eyes. But when nothing came, he opened them to see his father pissed while looking at who was stopped him. Todoroki looked at his hand. The flames were gone and what looked like bandage was wrapped around his hand. He followed it and saw the kid from before shivering in his shoes. His hair was raised and eyes glowing red. You! Endeavor growled. The boy closed his eyes in fear and all of a sudden, Endeavor's flames came back. Todoroki tried to stop his father as he latched onto him, trying to pull him back as he lashed at the boy. Then something happened that surprised them all. Endeavor's quirk was gone again, but this time it came with a punch that sent him flying back. Todoroki Shudo turned to see a man clad in black, golden goggles over his eyes, and the same scarf the kid that helped him had. He realized it wasn't just a scarf but hero gear. Erasure head. NG. Todoroki growled, "You should know how to mind your business, and you should know not to land a hand on my kid." Erasure head was pissed beyond words and looked at the number 2 hero. With killing intent that day, a deep hatred for each other was sparked between the two. They parted ways, both dragging their own kids away from each other. At home, Aizawa went ahead and ranted and ranted. Izuku pretending to listen as earpieces were in his ears. He just nodded, pretending to listen to his father. Endeavor went to his training room, ignoring his children, and raged inside. He had completely forgotten about Shudo. Erasure head had become one of the very few heroes he respected. Nobody POV, everyone was lined up to see who would go up against who in the final round. The ones that made it through seemed excited and glad they made it so far. Well, most of them. The girls of Class 1A had fallen for a terrible prank. The masterminds were Kaminari and Mineta, who laughing and cheering for them. All the girls in Class 1A were wearing cheerleader outfits. Izuku turned red when he saw Uraraka and 3 of his fellow male classmates noticed. The girls were ready to beat the life out Mineta and Kaminari. As the names were about to be paired up by random, a student raised his hand. "I'd like to forfeit." It was Nairenjiki Shoda from Class 1B. His class and teammates from the cavalry. Battle asked why. He told them that he hadn't done much and just depended on his teammates. It was matter of pride and also the fact that he would undoubtedly fail in the next round. Decided to have Tetsu from his class to participate in his place, saying his team lasted all the way. They wondered if Midnight would accept it and surprisingly did based on her own. Thus, Izuku let out a hua and shook his head at his aunt's behavior. The pairs that would go against were 1. Shinso vs Aizawa 2. Ashido vs Aoyama 3. Tetsu vs Kirishima 4. Yairose vs Tokoyami 5. Kaminari vs Ojiro 6. Todoroki vs Zero 7. Ida vs Hatsum 8. Bakugu vs Uraraka. The participants would be switched around again on the next battle and then again on the next. Then the final 2 would battle. Izuku was slightly nervous about fighting Shinso. They'd trained together after all. They were practically brothers that knew a lot about each other. Plus, he had overused suppress and his eyes were bloodshot. She had to use his eye drops twice. His head was already pounding. He needed a nap. As the recreational games were about to take place, he thought of sleeping in his sleeping bag that he had hidden to pass the time and get back some energy. Shinsu's athletic abilities were on par with his without his quirks helping. And with his quirk, the best strategy Izuku came up with was to disable his quirk and send him out. And so he switched on the passive eject. As Izuku laid in a locker not wanting to be disturbed, wrapped up in his sleeping bag, the locker opened. He let out an annoyed "huh" and looked at who disturbed him. It was Todoroki. "What do you want now?" he asks, seriously tired and slightly annoyed. He doesn't know it, but many have realized that his personality shifts when he's tired. He becomes like his father. "Let's have a talk," was all he said. Izuku begrudgingly rose from his sleeping bag and followed Todoroki. Once they were out of sight, Todoroki asked a question that had been nagging at him. "Are you All Might's secret love child instead of Aizawa's?" Izuku was ready to die at this moment. "Are you insane or something?" he asked, surprised and shocked and focused on living. "I look a whole lot like my mother, but my dad is really my dad. Wondering if my quirk is similar to All Might, then I can explain." He began muttering. "Do you know about quirk marriages?" Todoroki asked, shutting him up. He went on explaining his life and giving Izuku his story. The reason because All Might, the current #1 hero, had his eyes on him. And as the son of the #2 hero who had been forced to train right after he gained his quirk to become #1, he saw him as a rival. He told him that he would spite his father. In doing, he would become the #1 without using his left side, the side that had the quirk he inherited from his father. Izuku remembered when he first met Todoroki. He hated his father, and it seemed that hatred had grown over the years. Izuku noticed that they were somewhat the same but different. Both of them had their mothers taken away at a young age. But Todoroki's was still alive. And both were raised and trained by their fathers that were almost polar opposites. Erasure had cared for his kid very much compared to Endeavor. Izuku couldn't go to sleep. It was as though Todoroki was seeing him as All Might. Suppress him, then he suppress All Might. He needed to have some sense knocked into him. Erasure head, being the teacher for both students, had overheard their conversation. Thoki saw on his son's face told him that he wanted to knock some sense into Todoroki. The matches had been set for the next round. Everything was by random. It would be up to Izuku to help his classmates. In the end, Izuku couldn't get any rest or time to calm the pounding headache. To make it worse, the bloody megaphone was shouting into another bloody megaphone. The third round of the sports festival had finally begun, and he was up against Shinso. The first match. "We have Shinso from the Gen Ed department. Don't be fooled now, this guy trained under a sadistic SLV driver and is on par with his opponent when it comes to tactics. Than his opponent we have that man Aizawa. Oh boy, it's confusing since there's one sitting next to me. He too shouldn't be underestimated. He has proven it to us already on this very day. The crowd cheered and then noticed something. Both Aizawa, Izuku, and Shinso had capture gear. Began saying things and then Present Mike decided to answer their questions. If you all wondering about why they have the same gear, well, you could say they got it from the same person. Erase your head. Aspiring future underground heroes. Trained under the best of the best. They are also family Augwa. Present Mike got strangled. Midnight signaled the battle to begin. And so Izuku was OA with one for all full cowling. Shinso managed to dodge. And began talking. He knew Izuku was keeping his quirk suppressed, but he knew his cousin would slip. Was glad he went through that hellish training with Izuku. He trained even more after. Surprised Izuku because he was able to keep up. Oi, this looks like a really close battle. Aizawa is trying his best to capture Shinso and the man is dodging yortlessly. Present Mike voiced out after he was able to escape from Aizawa. Aizawa, what do you think about this battle? He asked the mummy beside him. The crowd was slightly confused. Just call one Aizawa and the other erasure head. Many of them thought together. The teacher let out a hua. They're both being careful and are not underestimating each other. Izuku tried to use his capture gear, but couldn't catch Shinso. Uraraka-san is really nice. If anyone knew how to push his buttons, it was Shinso. Izuku deactivated suppress any longer and he would pass out. He needed to keep his mouth shut now. Shinso managed to catch him with his capture gear and was about to send him out the ring when suddenly he activated Razor Extend and stood still as a boulder. Shinso quickly retracted his scarf and stood a good distance from Izuku. You know, Izuku should really thank me and my new friend Ida. Otherwise you would have beaten yourself to a bloody pulp. So it was you two that put me and Uraraka through those uncomfortable situations. He wanted to shout. Ah, that was a really nice cup of mind buying it for me? Again next time. Izuku charged at him and then Shinso decided to tell him this. I heard she likes you too. What dash? Izuku got brainwashed. Nobody POV Shinso facepalms reason because he wasn't expecting Izuku to fall for that. True, it was obvious to everyone that Uraraka has feelings for him, but Izuku was oblivious to the fact Aizawa Shoda also facepalms Ojiro Masher, who was Shinsu's teammate, also facepalms. He heard from Shinso that he and Izuku were family. Ida and Uraraka also facepalms because they know of his quirk. And so does Present Mike and Midnight, who were around when Aizawa trained those boys in the past. The crowd and other heroes were left dumbstruck. Are you an idiot? Shinso asked him and let out a sigh. Anyway, it's my win. Walk out the ring for me. With the words said, Izuku began to move. Knowing these boys, Aizawa's a lost cause now. I was really cheering on for him though. Oh, will you stop being biased? Izuku V, I can't believe I fell for that. I'm such an idiot. I need to break free. Damn it, I can't move on my own. I can see myself walking to the edge of the ring. But to move, I needed to get to the next round to beat some sense into Todoroki. I screamed to myself. I couldn't. Nobody POV Izuku tried his best to move when suddenly he felt power course through him. He was looking straight at one of the entrance/exit of the stadium. He saw 8 figures, all shrouded in darkness. It felt as though they were calling out to Izuku. It felt as though they were giving Izuku power. At the moment when Izuku was about to step out of bounds, his fingers move. 100% of OFA was used in his fingers, breaking it as it moved. The force created a powerful wind pressure and the pain broke Shinsu's hold on Izuku. He gritted his teeth and turned to Shinso. Izuku was still in the ring. Shinso was in shock. He didn't know anyone that could break from his hold on their own. In the state of shock, Izuku took the chance and caught Shinso. Shinso finally snapped out, but it was too late. Izuku pulled him in, and then sent a powerful kick to the gut that sent him out the ring. Izuku's fingers were broken. and bruised, like the first time he tried to use the power passed on to him. The crowd was silent for a moment and then cheered like there was no tomorrow. What just happened? Present Mike shouted, and the winner of the first match is Aizawa. Midnight shouted and the crowd cheered. Izuku went and helped Shinso up. How did you break free? He asked him. How the hell should I know? Izuku replied with an equally dumbstruck look. Well, it looked like I couldn't best those in the hero course. Shinso felt defeated. But a slap on the back from Izuku made him look up. What are talking about, Toshi? Izuku said with a grin. Just listen to. Everyone, the people in the crowd were complimenting Shinso and his quirk, saying he could be a great hero. Believe me, after this you'll get into the hero course, Izuku told him, bumping with him. Shinso let out a smile and accepted defeat. His classmates and fellow Gen Ed students cheered him on and he walked out, calling him the hero of the general education department. Izuku made it back to his classmates and sat down. After seeing Recovery Girl, needed to take a nap but wanted to watch the matches, as though it was a sixth sense. Uraraka noticed. Deku, you need rest, she said sternly. It's okay, I'll be fine. He tried to calm her down. No, you need rest. I can tell you're forcing yourself. You're going to hurt yourself, you know. She wasn't backing down. Her friend needed rest and she was willing to help. There were a couple of empty seats and so she moved to the end and patted her lap. Uraraka-san? Izuku said while blushing red. Shut up and lay down, Deku. But hup came Ida. He karate chopped Izuku on the back and he was out like a light. He caught Izuku before he fell and placed him on the empty seats, head on Uraraka's lap. Both let out a hua and watched the match. Ishido's physical capabilities were high and could easily go up against Aoyama. Aoyama kept on shooting laser beams and the girl, but she was quick on her feet with the acid. She used his weakness against him, his stomachache, and threw corrosive accident onto his belt to burn it away, and as Aoyama tried to pull his pants back up, Ishido went for the knockout. Ishido is the winner for the second match. Midnight shouted. Next was Tetsu and Kirishima. Battle on for a while, both having similar quirks and with similar personalities. It was a battle of endurance, manliness, and pride. Both fought as equals and ended up knocking each other out. It was a tie. Both would play a game to see who would make it to the next round. The constant cheering and shouts of Present Mike fell to the deaf ears of Izuku. He was normally sleep deprived, but right now he didn't feel like moving. He was deep in sleep, and the gentle brushing of her reminded him of his mother. It reminded him of the love she used to shower him with. The warmth was similar and he wanted to bask in it forever. He missed his mother and the gentleness brought a feeling nostalgia. A stray tear ran down his cheek as Uraraka wiped it away with a smile, unaware the pink one was watching. The fourth match begun and was over quickly. Tokoyami used Dark Shadow to push Yaoyorozu out the ring without hurting her. This resulted in him winning the match and Yaoyorozu beginning to doubt herself. The fifth began. Kaminari was busy saying something and Ojiro took the chance and whacked him in the head. Instant knock. Aizawa's sigh was audible. He was proud that it was mostly his class that got into the finals. But their idiocy was immeasurable. As the next match was about to start, Izuku began to stir. Awake. The first thing he saw was Uraraka spilling at him. Good morning, she said with a smile. Good morning, Izuku replied with a smile. Chi, you both are really cute, Ishido said, taking pictures. Izuku sat up instantly with a red face and turned away to hide his face. Uraraka had the same redness, but she stilled herself and left her seat, without many noticing except Izuku and Ida. It was time for Todoroki's match. Todoroki began to make his way down when he came face to face with his father. The only way to win is to use my power. I have you, he told him. Todoroki growled at his old man. I'll become number one without using your power. Seeing his father left him in a foul mood, Izuku knew this match would end quickly and didn't bother to watch. The moment Uraraka was the only thing on his mind. As the match began, Zero lost in an instant. Todoroki created a mountain of ice, only leaving Zero's upper body free. The difference between power was too great. It was clearly shown by the towering mountain of ice that reached over the stadium and into the heavens. The pros outside were dumbstruck, just like everyone inside. The pros, seeing the difference, began to cheer, "Don't mind," and so the crowds cheered for Zero. Ida left for the next round and Izuku stayed with Uraraka. He offered to help with strategies, but she declined. Izuku didn't know what to do and so just stayed by her side. It seemed as though Ida's match was taking a long time, and so Izuku blended his shoulder to Uraraka to rest up before her round against Bakugo. It was time. Ida had been played. Izuku watched Uraraka walk up and into the ring and prayed for her safety. He knew Bakugo wouldn't go easy on her. The crowd cheered on relentlessly and awaited the battle. Then midnight gave the signal. The match began. Bakugo POV: I wasn't gonna go easy on round face. She always hung around with Deku. The chances of her having a plan were high. Or if that DMN nerd gave her a strategy to beat me was high. I wasn't going to go easy on any opponent. Uraraka POV: there was a ton of people supporting me. My parents, my classmates, and Deku. If Deku can do, then so can I. Can do it. I can do it. I repeated those words in my mind. Nobody POV. Uraraka charged towards Bakugo, eyes filled with determination. She wasn't going to go down without a fight. The world that she could be a hero. She'd show them that she could do it. Just like Deku. The reason why she didn't accept his help, because she needed to do this battle on her own. Couldn't just rely on her friends forever. She came up with a plan and went in head first with it. She reached for Bakugo, but he was quick and blew an explosion at her. She got blasted back, but got to her feet. Her mind only screaming, "I can do it," as she charged once more. Boys. Keeping body. The clouds of smoke and dust helping to hide her movements. Izuku watched her carefully, praying she doesn't get to hurt. Bakugo was calm as he went against his opponent. He was shouting, cussing, or screaming. He recognized his opponent. Uraraka kept on coming at him. Bakugo shot of an explosion, but she dodged and kept on going. She was so close, but Bakugo was faster and blew a blast directly at her, but she was no longer there, only a now burned pea jacket, and she was behind him reaching out. Bakugo almost panicked and quickly blew her back with a blast, keeping her as far away from him. He knew if she touched him. Uraraka knew this wasn't going to be easy. She knew what was in store for her. She wiped the sweat of her cheek and charged once more, still staying low. The crowd watched and began to say that Bakugo was toying with her. Izuku had mixed feelings. Yes, he was mad at Bakugo. He was worried for Uraraka, but he was thankful to him, because he wasn't underestimating her. Bakugo wasn't going to underestimate anyone that hung around Deku. Boo! The crowd began to coo. What kind of hero are trying to become? Stop toying with her already. Are you even taking this seriously? This got Izuku mad. If he was mad, then sure as hell his dad was mad. Presently was about to agree with the crowd when suddenly, Agua, an elbow? Who was the one who said that? Erasure had questioned. Was it a pro? If it was, then you should think about your career choice. Bakugo is underestimating his opponent. That's why she's still in the ring. He's recognized her and knows that she isn't going to go down without a fight. Aizawa began to lecture the crowd. This calmed Izuku down, and the crowd ceased the booing and watched Izuku. Watched as Uraraka pressed her fingers together. He knew what she was planning and prayed. She succeeded. Release. The smoke and dust cleared up and everyone looked up. Many eyes almost fell out their sockets as they were witnessing a meteor shower. Bakugo had his head up. And so Uraraka took this as a chance. Her played back to everything that happened recently. The attack, the battle training with Deku, the entrance exam. She had been saved all through those. She remembered her promise she made with Deku. She promised him she would become a hero with him. She was going to be a hero. For him, for her parents, and for herself. She wasn't going to sit around and let people save her. She was going to be the one to save them. She remembered giving Deku a new meaning. A new meaning to his name. Deku sounds like a Japanese word for you can do it. It was time to take a page out her own book. Her heart and mind all screamed I can do it as she charged for Bakugo. Bakugo lifted a hand to the sky of falling concrete. Uraraka was inches away from Bakugo. But then he released what could be the largest explosion he had ever released. The force blew Uraraka back. The concrete blew up and away and scattered. The smoke from the blast reached for the heavens. And when it cleared, it revealed Uraraka on the ground. Her eyes clouded and but blank as she kept on, muttering the words, I can still do it, until she passed out from overusing her quirk. Uraraka is unable to battle, Bakugo is the victor, the crowd cheered for him. Bakugo's thoughts on them was how fickle many of them could be present. Mike fell out of character and sighed heavily. 'Cause he was truly supporting Uraraka. Izuku went to her after seeing who would be going against each other. He didn't know whether luck was on his side or not. His second round was next and he was going up against Todoroki. After seeing Uraraka, Izuku began to make his way to the arena. His match was next. He wanted to be with her but she said she needed to be alone. For a while. He respected her wishes and left. But he hung around enough to hear her begin to cry. He'll make it to the top for her. He promised. As he made his way, he suddenly comes across Endeavor. It's you, he spat, but I must thank you. You will let my son beast you with it. Quirk I gave him and we will all see who will be number 1 inch. He was about to walk away when suddenly his flames go out. Is Shudo you? Izuku asked. Of course not, fool, Endeavor snapped back. Exactly. Shudo isn't you. I'm not All Might or Erasure Head. Stop trying turning him into you. Izuku didn't give any time for Endeavor to come up with comeback and left for the arena. The crowd began to cheer relentlessly as the two sons of two pro heroes walked up to the stage. Mike was shouting into the mic relentlessly, getting louder and louder at every second. Erasure Head had long blocked out his ears to save himself from getting deaf. Todoroki stood at one end and Izuku stood on the other. Both got into their stances and when midnight gave the signal, Todoroki was the first to strike and encased Izuku in a mountain of ice just like he did with Zero. Once again everyone was gawking at the massive amount of power. Midnight once again encased in ice as well. Everyone went silent. Aizawa, can you still fight? Midnight asked, her teeth chattering as she was freezing. Yeah, Izuku said as his hair and eyes glowed green. The mountain began to crack, shatter and collapse. The crowd cheered as the ice came collapsing down. Izuku broke free and charged after Todoroki. The dual-haired boy shot ices. The green-haired charged forward. Izuku deactivated the passive eject of suppress. He was going to give his all with his quirks, and he wanted his opponent to the same. Izuku got close and was about to lend a hit, but a pillar of ice and shot Izuku in the gut, sending him back and almost out the ring. He was lucky to use his second quirk to stop himself. Izuku noticed that Todoroki's was getting slower. Those with ice quirks go into hypothermic shock after quirk overuse. Their bodies freeze, and is the opposite of those with fire quirks who can overheat. Todoroki can choose to have neither of these drawbacks if he uses both quirks. Izuku knew Todoroki had to regulate his temperature. Oi, why aren't you giving it your all? Izuku shouted, and charged once more, only to get hit by ice once more. Izuku tried to erase his quirk and charge, but the ice kept on blocking him from seeing Todoroki clearly. What are you trying to get? At Aizawa, Todoroki tried to send ice at him but nothing came. Izuku got him. Todoroki waited for the last moment and punched Izuku across the face. He got his quirk back and dodged back at good distance. Everyone is giving their all. It's not fair when someone doesn't. I can see you're freezing, Todoroki, Izuku said, flicking a finger at Todoroki. He used his ice to block and to stop him from going out of bounds. The blast from Izuku's finger had blasted up cold wind at the front and injured his fingers. All Might stared in horror, as did Erasure Head. He was giving his Using his fingers to throw out a 100%, Todoroki shot up ice once more. Izuku hardened and blocked the ice encasing him. He shot his binding gear up and at Todoroki, but he caught it. Freezes it and it shattered like glass. Izuku activated collapse and destroyed the mountain of ice. Once more and charged after Todoroki. He got close and landed a hit. Only to have Todoroki freeze his right hand. He continued with the ice barrage and Izuku continued to use his fingers to destroy the ice. He kept on going till all fingers were broken. Eyes BLD shot and dry from using suppress. Head pounding from using collapse. Cuts in the skin from razor extend. He was a mess. Just as Todoroki. He was near hypothermia. Why aren't you giving your all? Izuku shouted, charging after him. I'll never use his quirk in battle, Todoroki shouted as he blocks with ice once again. Izuku tried to use 5% to get away, but he was too slow. The ice began encase his. Izuku shot of a 100% shattering his whole arm. It's not the quirk that makes it who you are. It. Izuku grunted. He may be your father. You may have inherited it, but it's yours DMN. It's your DMN power. Izuku shouted, blasting away. The words he shouted echoed on Todoroki's head. Kept on echoing and echoing until it finally got to him. Before Izuku could even make contact, a blast came sending him back. Izuku went 100% with razor extend and dug his broken fingers into the concrete floor. His wrist and ankles began to glow. Izuku is lost in a sea of rage and determination as a new quirk began to show itself. And then, just then, a booming voice. But the two boys, the two aspiring heroes, the two young rivals heard nothing. As one is hiding a battle to save the other and the other is no confused about what he's fighting for. That's it, Shuto. Use the power I gave you. Show them you will be the number one. Endeavor boomed, but those words fell to deaf ears as his son was focused on his opponent. And we have words of encouragement from Endeavor, present, Mike said slightly. Taken aback, what a doting father. Got anything to say, Erasure Head? Mike questioned Erasure. Head looked down to the two boys. His son and his student. Let loose and go beyond plus ultra. Izuku heard those words. Todoroki heard those words. And so they did. Izuku new quirk. Activates. His hands are long black blades. And his feet were like clawed talons. All black as he launched at Todoroki. Channeling a 100% of one for all in his bladed handed as he sliced at Todoroki. He who had shot ice and the young Aizawa who had dodged then sent an incinerating blast of fire at him. The teachers took action. Midnight ripped her thinner than paper sleeve. Releasing sleeping gas as cement tossed multiple walls. Both boys' attack came in contact with each other. Boom! It created an explosion that shook the earth. It blasted away some of the audiences, lifting them of the seats as they clung to others. And others held some others down. Debris of concrete came crashing but had broken into many small pieces. Mike was thrown of his chair, leg up, and he shook. What just happened? He asked, and so Erasure Head began to explain. Down at the arena as smoke and dust began to fade away. Aizawa Izuku laid sprawled on the floor, still in the ring. A bladed hand embedded into the floor. His hand glowed red and returned to its broken form. The skin of his wrists were black. It looked as though he had a band around them. As more of the clouds of dust and smoke cleared, it revealed Todoroki up against the wall. Outside the ring, half his shirt was burned away. Todoroki has left the ring. Aizawa Izuku is the winner, the crowd cheered. Endeavor left. Erasure Head began to make his way out as both teens had begun to be taken away from the arena to Recovery Girl. Bonus body bags everywhere. Part 1. Ida was asked by Aizawa to go look for Izuku. It was nearly impossible to find his sleepy friend. The whole class found it impossible. The guy just pops up from nowhere just like their teacher. So when he returned saying he couldn't find him, Aizawa said it was fine. As heroics lessons came, everyone was asked to go and get changed. Ida still wondered where Izuku was. The boys then heard breathing. Quiet breathing. The light in the changing rooms slightly flickered. A dark aura surrounded one of the empty lockers. The lights continued to flicker. A cold chill and blew in, and made everyone's spine shiver. To say Deku, Todoroki and Tokoyami wasn't unnerved by the what felt like a demon in the locker waking up was a lie. No one dared to go near the locker, but someone had to, and so Bakugo, being so hot-headed, was the one to go. "The F.I. in here?" he shouted as he threw the door open and a body bag fell out. Parts of it was red with BLD. Bakugo froze. Mineta was first to pass out and Kaminari had left the building. Koda had turned white and passed out along with Aoyama. The lights still flickered, and so when they became dim, the body bag began to move. A demonic voice then came, "Who the F woke me up?" The demon said as a red and black nailed hand shot out and grabbed Bakugo by the as a head rose and the lights dimmed to darkness and all could only see were BLD shot. Glowing green eyes. No villain could ever scare them like this. This was a demon from hell. The fear attacked their hearts, and so they passed out. All of them. The demon rose and switched away. The light only to establish on another to see his classmates passed out. What happened? Izuku wondered. He had been sleeping inside the locker in his sleeping bag after managing to run from his aunt who had painted his nails when he was asleep in another place. His sleeping bag that had permanent stains paint when he and his father had tried to repaint the walls of their place. He looked at his hand, still red with paint from his training with his dad and Shinso, where they had to attack each with paint. He sighed, left his unconscious classmates and went to the classroom. Nobody. POV. Izuku woke up feeling like whack. When he woke, he saw Recovery Girl and All Might. His mummified father sat next to the man. "What happened?" was the first thing he asked. "I'll tell what happened," Recovery Girl replied. "You were too reckless. Pushed yourself beyond your limit. You unlocked a new quirk as well, and now you need surgery. Shi Huad, you are as reckless as your father and sacrificing yourself for another without a second thought." Izuku was out for a while. But not too long. He was told Cementos was fixing the arena cause both he and Todoroki had completely destroyed it. He was also told that he had made into to the next round. "Oh my boy, you scared us all out there," All Might said with a Hawaiian. That very moment, Mineta, Tsuchan, Ida and Uraraka burst through the door shouting, "Deku/Aizawa." All Might spurts out BLD. Aizawa sighed. "Oh hello." Uraraka greets All Might's skinny form. All Might shyly returns the greeting. "Aizawa, that was so scary. No pro is going want that," Mineta said while shaking. "That was very dangerous." Ida adds, "Deku, will you be alright? He'll have to forfeit the match. Izuku will be needing surgery and will need time to heal." Recovery Girl told them, "Surgery?" They all shriek, Okay, out with you lot." She ushers them out. "Recovery Girl, you said I got a new quirk," Izuku asked. He wasn't fully aware of what happened during his match with Todoroki. "Indeed you did. The next time you gain a new one will probably and hopefully be some years from now. Mr. Aizawa, and you too, All Might, you both better teach this boy about restraint. Not just what needs to be done to be a hero. He won't be able to save anyone if he completely breaks himself, both mentally and physically." Recovery Girl scolded, and with that she ushered the two out and began with Izuku's surgery. All Might made his way back to his seat and Erasure head back to his seat next to the human microphone. "So, what's up, Aizawa? Will Aizawa be ready for the next match?" Present Mike asked on behalf of the whole crowd. They were also wondering if the man was messing them. Aizawa will be forfeiting the match due to serious injuries he had sustained. It would need time to heal due to overuse of quirk as well, and so Todoroki will be moving on to the next round. The crowd cheered. Were all drawn in by the students' determination to win the match. Both were rivals. Both were friends. The majority of the crowd loved this. The BLD sweat and tears of friendship and rivalry, development and beginning. They were rooting for both. And that's the news, folks, present Mike said as the arena was finally fixed, and so the next match began. Izuku woke from his sleep after his surgery. He wasn't going to be heading on to the next match cause recovery instructed him not to use his hands for a couple of days. He asked about his new quirk. Recovery girl answered his questions despite her protests and her thoughts of Izuku coming up with silly ideas. Izuku's new quirk allows him to turn his hands into indestructible blades. He can black gauntlet-like claws, same with his feet. They are indestructible. Those words ran through his head. Ideas began to pop up then. Bonk, now you listen here. Recovery girl scolded. When that quirk is activated, your limbs will become indestructible to external damage. One for all cause. Internal damage. She made her point loud and clear, crushing the hope he was holding. When he went out, he found Uraraka waiting for him. Though I thought you might need some help. Deku had promised he would make it to the top and win the festival for her, but he broke it. He felt guilty. He felt really guilty. I'm sorry, Uraraka. The sound of guilt was evident in his tone. That it made Uraraka confused. I promised I'd make it to the finals for you and… Izuku was cut off by Uraraka cupping Izuku's face with her hands. Uraraka knew he would do something like this. He was Deku after all. The most kind-hearted and considerate bundle of joy. You didn't have to do that. I watched your battle with Todoroki. You were helping him. Like you do with everyone. You threw away your selfish promise and did something heroic, she said with a smile. And then embraced him in a hug. But I'll thank you for doing it for me, she said, pulling away. Izuku gave a smile. It made her heart skip a beat. Now let's go watch the other matches. You'd like to see them, she said, gently pulling her injured friend out. Friend, you thought? Did friends make her heart skip beats? No, Ida never made her feel that way. She shook of the thought. The matches went on. Ida eliminated Ojiro. Ojiro had managed dodging from Ida's pushes. But he wasn't match for Ida's speed and boosted kicks. Tokoyami did what he did with Yaoyorozu to Mina. Bakugo was just blasting Kirishima until he could no longer hold his quirk. The matches went. Todoroki defeating Ida. Bakugo exploiting Tokoyami's weakness, causing him to surrender. Izuku got slightly pissed. He made note to bring Tokoyami in for the hell training with his dad. Then they both could beat the CRP out of Bakugo. As he was plotting it, dark, murderous and sadistic aura surrounded him. His classmates backed up. And then finally, the final match. Everyone watched in suspense. Todoroki was the first to act, sending the same level of ice as he did with Izuku and Shiro. But just like Izuku, the ice didn't seem to be a problem. Bakugo burrowed himself out like a mole. Bakugo blasted himself towards him. Todoroki tried to grab him, but Bakugo dodged midair and got a hold him. Bakugo spun him and tried to blast him out. Todoroki wasn't going to go. He manipulated his ice to him and he used his ice to move around and encircle Bakugo. The exploding boy wasn't going to have it. He wanted his opponent to go full out. Oi, am I not worthy enough for you to use your left side? I'm not gonna win with my opponent not going full power. Bakugo blasted himself to Todoroki. Miscalculated and Todoroki caught him with his left hand. Do it, Shudo, use your left side. Todoroki heard his father. Didn't he leave? He wondered. Todoroki was confused and just threw Bakugo. This pissed the blonde OA. Izuku wasn't going to have it. He didn't get through him. Enough, he thought. Don't lose, Todoroki. He shouted. Uraraka saw this and helped him. Cheer, you can do it. She cheered with Izuku screaming their lungs out. Todoroki heard and began to use his fire. Bakugo saw his chance and used his special move, Howitzer. Impact. Todoroki was still feeling unsure. He let his flames die down and so he took on Bakugo. Attack head on. Bakugo slammed his hand on a block of ice and a powerful blast, engulfing everything in smoke, blasting the dual-colored hairboy back. Smoke cleared. Todoroki was seen out of bound and knocked out. Bakugo was on the floor. First he was confused and then face switched into a scowl. You demon idiot, you didn't use those DMN. Lames. He went to Todoroki only to be gassed by midnight. Todoroki is out of bound. Bakugo is this year's winner. Midnight called out and everyone cheered. Thank you for joining us on this journey through what if Deku had ability to develop new quirks? We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to the Weird 10209 for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zenin Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you soon in the next video.